Have you been distressed or perplexed? Emasculated, a book written by Derrick Jaxn IV. Everything that needs to be known about men in modern time. Listen, men are not complex, they are misunderstood and unappreciated. Learn what men really feel, think, and desire. Also observe their struggle for acceptance, love, and belonging. A must read for every man in this classic book by Derrick Jaxn IV. Emasculated. Go get your copy now.
Yeah, we tried to warn you. It appears that Derrick Jaxn has filed for divorce from his wife. Derrick Jaxn's the type of guy that when Kevin Samuels was living, he tried to warn you about. And so many men in these spaces, as men like Derrick Jaxn lie to women, and they keep women in a state of suspended animation. Many men like Derrick Jaxn are actually narcissists or have narcissistic traits. And also men like Derrick Jaxn also have Machiavellian tendencies. What can we learn about this ongoing debacle where men in these spaces lie to women to garner favor or pander to women and tell them what they want to hear? Derrick Jaxn is the reason why so many women are suffering and dealing with mental health issues because they don't tell them the truth. They lie to them. Where do we go from here? What say you?
Something to get off. Listen, this who we need. This who we need. Hold on. Holy water. Holy water. Lord, I cast all the demons of the sexual demons away, okay? I rebuke the sex demon. Lord Jesus, I rebuke him in the name of Jesus. His wife ain't finna cast no spells on me like I'm the problem, so I got my holy water for that ass, okay? All right, please keep all the sexual demons and the spirits away from me. All right, I don't want nothing of this man coming near me. All right, and in the words of our Lord and Father and Holy Savior, oh, you don't understand. You don't understand God, listen.
We tried to tell you that boy won't no good.
The itch in my palm. My girl, she know she the one. I put the ice on her hand. I put some ice on her arm. See me shining in the light. Know you found me in the dark. Talking how you wanna leave. Girl, you made this far. Taking trips overseas. No, I won't be long. We came up from the weeds. Now it's top floor. All these big gets on her wrist. VVS is on her neck. Make it spin and I don't stress. When I make it stretch. Double back to back end. Down broke, now we rich. Spend it on her, let her spin. Down with me to the end. That my best friend. That my best friend. That my best friend. I'ma spend it on her, cause she all mine. That's me. Spend it on a challenge, cause she all mine. There for my first cake, then we hit on a cake. $500,000 on the way, then $1 million on the way. Eating good full plates, eating good say grace. Eat her up, get thanks. She got cake birthday. I can't waste no way, I can't waste no play. My girl, whoa, sounding like the baddest chick. My girl, whoa, came from the rags to rich. Hit the road running, I had to tell her I had to get it. She understood, but she spoiled, so when she get mad, she dip. She do. All these big gets on her wrist, VVS is on her neck. Make it spin and I don't stress. When I make it stretch. Double back to back end. Down broke, now we rich. Spend it on her, let her spin. Down with me to the end. That my best friend. That my best friend. That my best friend. I'ma spend it on her, cause she all mine. That's me. Spend it on a challenge, cause she all mine. All these big gets on her wrist, VVS is on her neck. Make it spin and I don't stress. When I make it stretch. Double back to back end. Down broke, now we rich. Spend it on her, let her spin. Down with me to the end. That my best friend. That my best friend. That my best friend. I'ma spend it on her, cause she all mine. All these big on a challenge, cause she all mine. That my best friend. That my best friend. That my best friend.
Pain. I've been there, locked up inside my head, broken from fear, illusions, disappointment, and hopelessness. Who heard me in my silence, where being a man means nothing? Despair. I've been there too, desperately seeking answers for the questions associated with manhood, hills and valleys, too bleak to compare. Stress, suffering in a utility silo, no comfort, no security, no freedom, no justice, just do it for others. Challenges, who will help me break the challenges? Lost in the vortex of darkness, hopelessness, fear, and abandonment. I've been there too. I've been there too. Take the next step to your destiny. Join me in this fight. Walk forward. Deep breaths. Head held high, men. Come join me, men, in the winds of time. Stories, hopes, visions, purified in the fire. I'm not a superhero, and I'm not the Reverend Knight, I'm here to help you. Join me then in this fight. Break the chains of your mind. Let's do it now. For now is all we have.
Fire for your mind. The kosher clinician.
All right, guys, we're about to get into it on tonight. We got a power pack show, a little tongue twisted, on tonight with Ted Santos, Blair Nash, and also Letitia Underwood in this classic from the past. I call the flashback from the past. The question remains tonight is this. Breaking news, Derrick Jaxn files for divorce. Derrick Jaxn say love is not enough. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this show as I bring it to you live from the greatest state in the union, the Tar Heel State. We're about to get it cracking in a minute as my Tar Heels of North Carolina knocked off Ohio State, and my North Carolina Central Eagles beat Deion Sanders in Jackson State. We're about to bring the fire as Derrick Jaxn, guys, is laughing all the way to the bank.
Laugh it to the bank like ha 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 ha. Ooh, go, go. Laugh it to the bank like ha 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 ha. Ooh, yeah. I got it in tens, 20, 50, hundreds, tens, 20, 50, hundreds, tens, 20, 50, hundreds, tens, 20, 50, hundreds. Laugh it to the bank like pedal to the floor, need no brake lights. In the dark, watch it make light.
We tried to warn you guys that Derrick Jaxn was laughing to the bank, and that Derrick Jaxn don't even believe what he's telling you guys. But sadly, too many of our women are too sensitive. They can't hear it. They can't receive it because of thinking errors. And Derrick Jaxn is laughing to the bank.
I got it in tens, 20, 50, hundreds, tens, 20, 50, hundreds, tens, 20, 50, hundreds, tens, 20, 50, hundreds. I get it, I flip it and continue. I've been going dumb, I've been going mental. Going up, I'm on another level.
Fire for your mind. Kosher mission.
My grandmama, I'm her Nicky Nick. I just wanna love, but I've been hit or miss. I might up and leave, yeah, take a pic. Laugh it to the bank like
bring it to you live from the greatest state in the union.
Laugh it to the bank like
we're about to drop the fire in a few minutes, guys. Stay tuned.
I got it in tens, 20, 50, hundreds, tens, 20, 50, hundreds, tens, 20, 50, hundreds, tens, 20, 50, hundreds.
All right. So, the question remains on tonight. Has Derrick Jaxn laughed all the way to the bank and deceived a lot of men and women? I think Ted Santos can answer this topic, Letitia Underwood, and also Blair Nash. So, guys, we're going to bring them on. Ted Santos. I don't see Ted. Letitia Underwood.
Ted's got to turn on.
And Blair Nash.
What's up, Ted?
I think Ted's blacked out, man. Ted blacked out, man.
Ted's got to turn on his camera.
You got to turn on your camera, Ted, man. Come on, Ted, man.
What up, Teddy?
You got to turn on your thing, man. All right, Blair, what's up, man? Hey, Blair, man. You must have got the times confused, man. It was 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, North Carolina.
No, I got time right. It's cool. No worries.
Okay,
you got it.
All right, man.
We're all good.
So we're here on tonight, Blair Nash. You know, man, this feel like old time. You know, back in the day, they made a song called "Rock Me Tonight" for old time's sakes. We're gonna rock it tonight with Ted, you, and Letitia. About 2 years ago, I started the Manhood Chronicles, and you know, this thing is taking a meteoric rise to some degree. But you know, I want to ask you a couple of questions, Blair. What's going on with Derrick Jaxn and his level of deception as it seeks to destroy and more or less cause a lot of distress with some of these modern women?
Yeah, man. I don't really even know where to begin with it.
Take your time. Let the Lord
I mean,
let the Lord use
it's kind of like you mentioned in your monologue. We've been talking to women about Derrick Jaxn for years. Years. We've been saying to them, you know, he is a fraud. He's this, he's that. And, you know, women, you know, you're just upset because he's this way and he's that way. And he's getting all the shine and the light from the women and all these other things and so many other reasons. And, you know, men flatly told you, no, it has nothing to do with that. It has zero to do with that. It has everything to do with it has everything to do with his content, with the way he's misleading women, etc. And so here we are now in the end of 2022 in a situation where he has now been busted again with a woman. And now all of a sudden it's, everyone's nobody's perfect. Everybody makes mistakes and everything else. Instead of just acknowledging and saying, you know what? Yeah, maybe he's the F-boy and the clown that he's been writing about all this time.
Right.
I will, in being transparent, I used to do something called Single of the Week, and I'll just get to the point real quick.
Yes, sir, go ahead,
I did something called Single of the Week, where basically I highlighted different black men, black women from around the country, gave them a little profile. Here's this person. Here's if they're single. If you're interested, reach out to them, etc. Derrick Jaxn was actually one of the first people I spotlighted. So I started this back in like 2013, 2014. Right. So I don't have an axe to grind with Derrick. My axe to grind is really with his content and the way he is misleading our women. That's really the only issue. So, again, like I said, I mean, right now it's kind of manna from heaven for men, because we've been saying for years, Derrick is no good. He's a clown. He's a fraud. And now we have the receipts and everything else that we need to. And now the pivot has come into, it is what it is. People aren't perfect individuals.
Right.
Listen to them. So I just think it's very, I just think the whole charade of it is very interesting. So that's really all I got to say.
Yeah, they're always moving the goalposts. Ted Santos, Derrick Jaxn is laughing all the way to the bank, man. What's going on with these thinking errors, as so many have been encapsulated by Derrick Jaxn and his shenanigans, in your opinion? It's a pleasure to have you back in, man. It feels like old times with you and Ted and Letitia, man. It feels like old times. Go ahead.
You can see me now, right?
Yeah, we can see you now, brother.
All right, cool. So I actually, I think there are a couple of perspectives to take. The first one I'll say would probably be cynical. And what he's doing may just be a great publicity stunt. This is how you sell more books, and this is how you split the Red Sea for a new book that may be close to your title, like Why Love Is Not Enough, and women will just eat it up. So he's just opened the door to write a new book about why you need more than love. And like Will Smith and his wife did a bunch of publicity stunts to get more attention. So, Derrick Jaxn, make sure he never becomes obsolete. I'm not saying that like it's a fact. I'm just saying
just throwing it out there
to take, right?
Right.
The other one is this Derrick Jaxn. If it's not a publicity stunt, it's a micro of the macrocosm. So this is just an example of how when men tell women, this guy is no good, he's not good for you, and they just ignore it. And what it really reminds me of is back in the mid-'80s, I watched the drug dealer boys come up onto Howard University campus. In the beginning, no woman would talk to them. And all it took was one woman to go out with one of those guys, and he he spent money, he bought her things, and then more and more women started going out with those guys, and more of those guys started coming on campus. The college guys all said that's a bad move, and the women ignored it. And what happened? The women turned up pregnant, single mothers.
Right.
They were physically abused, and in worst case, some of them died, were killed being around those guys.
Yes, sir.
So no matter how much you tell women this, here we are. That was mid-'80s. Here we are, 40 years later, and still men are saying, look, you don't want to be with those guys. And what do women do? They do it anyway. So
they do it anyway, right?
So Derrick Jaxn is sort of like what Blair was saying. They're just going to say, well, no one's perfect, and they'll just keep following them.
And it's always a deflection and or an objection when you present the truth and the evidence. I believe the evidence was seen, and because so many of these women have satanic egos, that you can show them the evidence and they either deflect or stay in a state of delusion, or they will minimize what you're trying to teach them for their own benefit. Letitia Underwood, tell the audience who you are, and why is Derrick Jaxn telling the world that I gotta cheat, love is not enough?
So I'm Letitia Underwood. I am a certified professional matchmaker, and I work exclusively and solely with men who espouse traditional values and helping them connect with women who also espouse traditional values. So in listening to you guys, my take is just going to be a little different. It's different. I'm looking at this differently. I'm hearing what you guys are saying.
Okay.
And it's like, okay, you guys sound like you're saying that women were signing up with him like it's a bachelor show or something, like women were signing up to date him when women were just listening to what he was saying. And it sounds, I'm not hearing anyone attack the actual message and say, no, that men aren't like this, or men don't do that, or that's what he is saying about this is false when it comes to men. I'm just hearing, well, he is an F-boy, he was a wolf in sheep, he was a wolf in sheep clothing, and he got over, which is true. He was all those things, but the way that you guys are going about this is like, well, you guys shouldn't have listened to him anyway because he's an F-boy. Well, they weren't listening to him to date him, although most women would find him attractive. They were listening to him to try to figure out how to get out of these bad relationships. What does it mean when your man is acting this way? What does it mean when this is happening or that is happening? And he just gave them the information that they were looking for. So, but did he prove the love is not enough? He certainly did.
Oh yeah. He definitely did. Yeah. Go ahead.
Because if you look at his wife and you look at the women he was cheating with, it was clear that love was not going to conquer that relationship alone.
Right, and the reason why I titled that, Letitia, because I was being sarcastic, but the reason why I titled that because many times Derrick Jaxn often talks about idioms. He talks about women that got stretch marks are sexy. Only grown men deal with women that got kids, all kinds of goofy stuff. And when God was trying to tell him that he's just a liar and he's a hypocrite, many didn't want to listen to it. They minimized what men were saying. And because of that, they become saboteurs of their own ignorance, to say the least. You're right that some were just listening to what Derrick Jaxn is saying and trying to get his advice. But I think on a subconscious level, they were hoping for a Derrick Jaxn type. Because when the average Joe was trying to give them input or insight about men, many times they reject the average Joe. If you're not at least 6 feet tall, six figures, six pack, and the 6-inch peen, then it's a problem. So it's like it's never enough. So it's almost like he used reverse psychology, or in the clinical world we call it reaction formation, where they say one thing but they're really thinking something else. So if I tell women they're special and beautiful, he's probably saying these chicks or these bees are dumb. I've heard that he's called women weave heads. From a chick on one show, he called them weave heads and stuff. So it's like he's almost the antithesis of the things that he talk about. What's your take on that, Blair?
Man, I could go a lot of different directions, but what I'll just simply say is, to Letitia's comment, we're not attacking Derrick. There's a lot of things about Derrick that I find incorrect. I'll just say it like that. Number one, his message. the message of telling women this is how you can kind of detect the kind of men that are bad, or you can, this is the way to go. There's a lot of different people you could listen to other than Derrick Jaxn. So, with all due respect to you, Letitia, I mean that the idea that he is some sort of anointed person to listen to, or that can speak to these kind of things, when he doesn't really have the track record and he doesn't really have the model to follow, is a little disingenuous. And that's what I think a lot of men we're really speaking to, is that of all people to listen to, you're going to listen to this guy who essentially just runs down black men. And I don't have a problem with him necessarily speaking about the black men. The knock on Derrick Jaxn for many years has always been, he speaks to one side, but not the other. He only speaks, he very seldom ever comes to black women and says, you have this going on with you, and this is why you are foul. But he will do that to black men. And that's pretty much been the knock on him. Everyone knows that. So that's the issue that I have with him with that. Not to, putting aside the idea and the notion of what he's done to his wife. If he cheat on her once, cheat on her twice, and she's over it, hey, who am I to judge? But the problem is that you are misleading and taking our women down a road that is only not only is some of the information wrong, but it's very one-sided. And so it seems like there's an agenda there, as opposed to just, I'm here to talk to the men, I'm here to talk to the women. And so, like I said, there's a lot of different, it's kind of like a tree. There's a lot of different branches there, and there's a lot of different ways you can go. But and again, not you, but to posture him as he is some sort of authority, or he's really the kind of person we should be listening to. I don't know where that would even come from. There are so many black men, Kosher Clinician being one, Ted being one. Right. There are so many black men that you can listen to, and they will tell you directly the things that you need to understand about men, and how to go about not meeting the wrong type of man. So that's the issue that I have with Derrick. Not not all there's no hate or whatever, but where did the idea of listening to him become, oh, he's the Messiah, he's the person that really, he has all the answers? Because he really doesn't. That's my issue.
Right, excellent point. Letitia, I saw you shaking your head. What's going on in your head?
When he said that there's so many people they can listen to, Ted, and I mean, any of you guys, I'm like, that's kind of hypocritical, because I've came across all of you on Facebook in two different groups, the Safe House and Straight Talk, and that was just men. It was by men for men, men's perspective, and there was no two sides to it. It was men telling women what they liked, what they didn't like about them, and what they were getting it wrong. And anytime a man even dared to say anything in defense of women, he was called a simp and ran up out of there. And no, I just, even with the manosphere, it's just one-sided. Like, to say that Derrick Jaxn was unbalanced, when all of the male content creators, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook or any other social media platform, y'all are focused on just telling y'all side of the story and just talking to men about women. There is no balance of, men, this is what we do, or what we should do, or what we need to get together. I mean, I put posts on my Facebook, and it's either about men or it's about women. And anytime I put up a Facebook post about men, it's like I get a lot of pushback from men. And so all this talk of, Derrick Jaxn was just one-sided, he wasn't unbalanced. Well, I'm sorry, y'all, a lot of these men weren't balanced in their rhetoric either. The fact remains is that women were listening to, it takes an F-boy to know an F-boy. And so he was the perfect person to speak on F-boyism, as he professed to be an F-boy in several of his videos. And the only thing was, he wasn't telling women that, hey, I'm still this guy. Like, right? He tried to come off as, I'm married, I've gotten it together, I'm better now, and this is how I know. No, he should have just kept the rhetoric of, I'm still that guy. I'm still that guy. I'm still that F boy. And this is why I can tell you how F boys operate, because you can't sit here and tell women there's no narcissists. You can't tell women that men don't cheat, men aren't cheating. You can't tell women that men aren't lying to them, manipulating them. You can't tell women that men aren't being mean to them and showing a lack of interest. And when it comes to the baby mama situation, he was talking about a certain segment of men who like to use single mothers as recreational use. And he was chastising those men about taking that standpoint. If you don't want to go the distance with her, then leave her alone. Don't awaken that woman's love. And then you just decide for yourself that she's not good enough to go the distance with because she has kids. Well, just leave her alone. So I'm trying to figure out in all of that, where was he wrong? Because I don't think I've heard any men speak that blatantly or that bluntly, maybe Tony Gaskins, without like trying to do whataboutism and point the finger at, well, women, you're choosing these men and you're dealing with these men. No. Women want to hear, what do I have to do to get away from this dude? Why is this happening? And they wanted to hear just that. And he gave it to them. And so that's why they were listening.
But I think
may I say something real quick?
Go ahead, Blair.
Okay, just real quick. So let me just say that, in response to what you're saying, that, it seems like for men, it's kind of one-sided and all they do is kind of harp on women. Is that what I'm hearing? Is that what I'm getting from you, Miss Underwood?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So let's use an illustration that everyone knows. And I'm going to say the word Kevin Samuels. Kevin Samuels, when he started out, began talking about men exclusively for years, for roughly 3 years. That is all he talked about. He talked about men in every facet form that we could think of, critiqued them every possible way. I've allowed my wife to listen to some of them because she was under the impression as well that, all he does is, just rah, rah, rah on the sisters. I was like, no, that's not necessarily true. Yes, he went viral for a particular video, but again, he talked about men for years. Only when he began talking about women was there a problem.
Right.
Women never said, Kevin, you're wrong for talking about all the men back then. All they wanted him to do was simply shut up and stop talking about Black women. Right. So the idea in this, it only seems to go one direction when men talk about it is wrong, because I can give you countless examples of different people, Kevin Samuels being one of them, because he's he's probably the most known and also most polarizing that we know of the Black men out there, God rest his soul. But he spoke to men for years. And only when he began talking about women was there a critique of, you need to stop doing this. So pardon us men if we kind of see it in a way of, no, I don't think it's an issue of it being unfair. I think it's an issue of it being, I don't think Black women want to hear what Black men have to say. Right. When Derrick Jaxn speaks about Black women, he speaks about them in a very enlightening, very, well, sometimes, sister, you kind of, you might have to pivot and do this and whatever. But when he comes to Black men, it's harsh. Again, hear my point. I have no problem with him being harsh towards Black men. There are a lot of F-boys, a lot of screw-ups out there. But what I'm saying is, where's that same love for the sisters? And he don't have it. And to sit in and pretend as though he is speaking with the same energy towards sisters that he does to brothers is wrong. That was all. Right.
And you know what? And guys, in the meantime, guys, get the likes up, please. Subscribe to Brother Ted Santos at the bottom. Share this content. And if you have not donated to the show, please donate to the show. As you guys know, these shows are very time consuming. This is a show that many need to hear. And Letitia, to more or less parrot your talking point in the spirit of fairness. For years, Letitia, there was never a balance as it relates to male-centered content or male issues. You and I, you're a little younger than me, but I think Ted and Blair remember, we're from Gen X. And Ted, I think, Letitia, you're a young Gen X. But for years, I don't want no scrub. A scrub can't get no love from me. Ain't nothing going on but the rent. You got to have a job. I want a roughneck, you know, and men took it. We took it in stride. We just ate it, you know. So male-centered content is a response to the disequilibrium that was accosted towards black men. And so my content, we talk about dusty guys, we talk about irresponsible men, but our focus is for male empowerment because of the atrocities and the heinous nature of some women that are gynocrats, than what they've said to men. The problem I see, Blair and Ted, a lot of times also, Letitia, is that any level of critique, because women are very sensitive, they can't handle it. So you have to be very gingerly when you walk around women. Men can't just speak unapologetically masculine and keep it raw. And so what Derrick Jaxn does is like Derrick Jaxn says one thing on one end, but he does something totally different on the back end. So it's almost like he's massaging the egos of women to facilitate outcomes. And what the guys are saying is that if men ever decide to be genuine up front, because they've been so emasculated, then it's met with ill repute. What's your take on that, Ted, based on what Letitia said? Because I respect her position. But what's your take on that? So
what Derrick Jaxn did was told women what they wanted to hear. He functioned just like a player does. A player will tell you what you want to hear just because he's got a goal that he wants to accomplish with you. And that's it. He cares nothing else about you. Now, if women are concerned about being with the wrong kinds of guys, you don't do that by focusing on the wrong kinds of guys. The reason you're getting the wrong kind of guy most likely is because that's all you're qualified for. And that's what the message Kevin Samuels was presenting to women. And it's why they didn't want to hear it. You're getting the wrong men because you are qualified for exactly what you have. So trying to figure out how to get away from the bad boys is like hiring a poor person to teach you how to be wealthy. And it would be ridiculous. So that's exactly, Derrick Jaxn was analogous to the poor person teaching you how to be rich. So he was the player trying to teach you how to get away from players by doing exactly what players do, which sets a trap, a perpetual trap,
right, that
women can't get out of because all they're talking about is what the players are. But the problem is you as a woman, and I've in my shows, I've talked to guys and say there's a caliber of women out there, but the question is, are you qualified for that high caliber of women? And the women who just want to hear you tell them to make them feel good, tell me the things I want to hear so I can feel good, those women are almost never going to qualify for this caliber of men that they claim they want. And that's the message Derrick did not deliver to them.
Right, I totally agree. Shout out to my man Blair Nash for that $10 super sticker. And Blair Nash, because of your love and your kindness, Blair Nash, you are Blair Nash. I got to find it for you, Blair. Blair Nash, you are the #1 sponsor of the stream, brother. Thank you, sir. Shout out to my man Ray Johnson for that $10 cash out. And Ray Johnson, thank you for your kindness, brother. Thank you, sir, brother Ray Johnson. And that's a deal, right? Thank you, sir.
That's a deal, right?
That's a deal, right?
That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right?
In the meantime, I wanna break something down. The good therapist said he's a follower clinician like myself. He said most of the followers wanted to sleep with him. he slept and cheated with his followers. They ignored the advice of men and their families for him. And that goes back to what we talked about in the past, Ted, Blair, and also Letitia. So many men in America have been emasculated. They've been emasculated. This space was created as a response. It's almost like a cause and effect scenario. It was created as a response to what men have been dealing with in their emasculation. And the good therapist, guys, he actually wrote a book that I'm actually promoting. He wrote a book called Emasculated. If you haven't got your copy, I'm going to put the link in the bottom. I want you guys to go get a copy of this brother's book, and it's called Emasculated.
Have you been distressed or perplexed? Emasculated, a book written by Derrick Jaxn IV. Everything that needs to be known about men in modern time. Listen, men are not complex. They are misunderstood and unappreciated. Learn what men really feel, think, and desire. Also observe their struggle for acceptance, love, and belonging. A must read for every man in this classic book by Derrick Jaxn IV. Emasculated. Go get your copy now.
All right, so shout out to my man Gregory Scotland for that $5 super sticker. He said, Chris Secure got it right when she points out a black woman is black women to be the key to the problem in the black community. They love Derrick Jaxn. And then also shout out to my man Chris Strongheart, Young Lion. Chris, I'm going to bring you up in a few minutes, man, as the show simmer. He said they complain about the men they choose, no doubt, and I totally agree. Is it safe to say Blair Nash and Ted Santos and also Letitia, that because men have been emasculated, that's why they have such a visceral response towards Derrick Jaxn? What say you, Blair Nash?
I would. I think, you know, one of the things, and I've talked about this on one of your previous podcasts, in that this is one of the first times that we've actually, as black men, have had a platform and a chance to speak about the things that we dislike. You know, for so many years, it's been, you know, women have had the platform and had the opportunity to speak about, you know, just whatever it is that they wanted to speak about, and they basically control the narrative about black men. And so now that black men actually have some semblance of being able to speak about their problems, their issues, their frustrations, etc., we're now being able to kind of pull back the curtain on many of the things that black men have issues with. So yeah, it has been somewhat of a, I don't want to call it kind of a, I don't know if you would call it a virtual emasculation or whatever, but there definitely has been an emasculation that has happened, and it continues to happen because black men, you know, from media to even our black women, everywhere you go, they want us to be silenced. And right. So what we're having to deal with is, you know, the idea of why do you, because I ask women this all the time, answer me this. Why did you want Kevin Samuels silenced so badly? What was he saying that was so wrong? Specifically, what did he say that was so bad and so wrong? Is it that he was making up stories and lies? Or is it that there is a truth that is there that a lot of our women did not want people and others to see? And that's what I believe. So yeah, there is an emasculation that's going on. Absolutely.
Letitia, do you believe in cause and effect? And do you believe that the emasculation of black men at a psychic level has caused them to have the level of animus that they have towards Derrick Jaxn, in your own opinion?
Well, I don't think black men have been emasculated. I don't.
Oh, really?
I don't think you. I mean, I'm trying to figure out how can a woman emasculate a man? Like, we can't beat you all, right? We cannot. You're physically stronger than us. So I'm just trying to figure out how can a woman emasculate a man? I think the only one that's capable of doing that is another stronger male, right? But as far as Kevin Samuels, you're right. He was Kevin. Besides all the male content creators that I came across, he was the more fair and balanced. And when he was speaking to men about how they needed to get themselves together, he was emasculated by men because they called him gay, and they said women shouldn't listen to him. He's gay. He's a simp. He's a panderer. All the hyper masculine males, especially, they just could not. They just told women shouldn't listen to him. He's a fake. He's a fraud, and he's gay. Right? It wasn't until he capitulated to women, then men started clapping their hands and cheering him on. So, but I don't see how women can emasculate men. As far as the content and all that, what's going on now, a good friend once told me that the problem in relationships is is that when one side comes to you and tells you and tries to communicate to you what the issue is, it's never a good thing to then turn around and say, well, you're doing this and you're doing that, right? So for decades, yes, women came to men with their complaints about, I need you to step up in the home. I need you to be more available. I need you to do more, be more, right? Women were making these complaints for years. I love you, Black man. I love you. I want you here, but the cheating has to stop. The drinking has to stop. The drug use has to stop. The gambling has to stop. All of this bad behavior has to stop. You're being lazy and shiftless has to stop. Wanting to just use me for my body has to stop. What happened then? You guys found an online platform called YouTube and these online virtual platforms, and then instead of acknowledging what women are saying and then doing better, you just turned around and started pointing the fingers and saying, well, you're ugly, you're fat, you have a bad attitude, I don't like you, we don't like you anymore, so we're going to leave the country altogether and find us some wives, or you know what, we're not even going to be with Black women, we're just going to date Beckys and Merethal's and Melings, right? So
I think Letitia's more nuanced than that, and I do respect your position, and I do respect you. It's good to have a little balance, but I'm going to challenge your talking point, and here's why. You said that you don't feel like a woman can emasculate men, and that's a fallacy. They can emasculate men. It's not due to physical where the emasculation occur. It comes in the mind. When you tell a man you're not adequate enough because you don't make a certain amount of money, that's emasculation and objectification. When you tell a man that his penis is too small, that's emasculation. If you tell a man he doesn't add up or measure up because he's too short, that could be seen as a form of emasculation. True indeed, men and women both can, men can emasculate too if he punch him in the mouth or, get him in his collar and tell him to shut up or whatever. That can be seen as that to some degree. But in general, women tend to emasculate first through the mind. They've been doing it for eons and years. And so once again, Andrew Baker said something that was very poignant. He said that, women were calling Kevin Samuels gay. I would say that women called him gay more so than the men did. They said it more so than the men did. So it's this countercultural movement, this countercultural argument where we tend to see through a limited lens or through a myopic prism. And because of that, we're not moving anywhere. Anytime men share their stories or their concerns, they're minimized. And the type of men that I think you're talking about, Letitia, and fair to point, it's only a small percentage of men that are causing the malfeasance that we're talking about and that you're talking about. Most men, by and large, they're average guys. They don't have access to all the women. They did a study about a small population or sample size of men is having access to the majority of women. You can't have 33% of your men being virgin, 33% of the U.S. population of young men being virgins, and then we turn around and say those men are causing the malfeasance that we're talking about. That's statistically impossible. It can't happen. It's not even statistically insignificant. And so what we're saying is that our men, by and large, are frustrated. I talk about all the time the snake whispers. I talk about the men that are causing chaos in the community. I've talked about it. I don't have a problem talking about it. But it's almost like, and you've experienced it yourself, when men or women talk about a modicum of the things that women do and say, that it's always met on deaf ears. They've accosted you, called you all kinds of names, mammies and pick-me's and goofy stuff, because it's snake whispers like Derrick Jaxn that have assuaged their ego or gave them truth mixed with error. I've always said this, that the whole truth a lot of times is more believable than a half lie. If Blair tell me, Moses, I got $100 million in the bank, I'm gonna say, Blair, you're lying. But if Blair tell me I got about 150, that's more believable. But he might only have 50,000 in the bank. So my whole point is, Derrick Jaxn massages the egos of women. He massages their egos to tell them what they want to hear. He say things that men know is actually counterintuitive. When they say that, stretch marks are sexy, some men might, on the backside is sexy, but, some men don't want a woman with a bunch of stretch marks on her stomach. Looking like chewed up bubble gum. That's how some men feel. I'm just being real. So when men say that, then Derrick Jaxn come back and counter pivots to the talking points of a lot of men. Ted, I want you to add into it, brother, real quick. But before you do it, shout out to my man, a man supporting men. He said they're not talking about free thinking men. They're not talking about good, nice guys. They're talking about Pookie's Ray Way and Walmart tables. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about to the good brothers that are decent. But what's your taking point on that, Ted? Break it down, man.
Well, I'll address the emasculation first. I think it was Henry Ford. He said something like, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
You're right.
Whichever one you think. Right. So if you think you're being emasculated, you're right. See, I'm with Letitia. No woman can emasculate me. I'm 5'6", and I've dated women as short as 5 feet and as tall as 6'2". My height is irrelevant.
Right.
So a woman can say that. If I don't make $100 million a year and that's what a woman needs, I'm not emasculated. There's nothing a woman can take from me. There's nothing anyone can do to me to take from me and make me less than what I am. And that's the lesson men need to learn. I think part of the problem is men have, and to your point, Seven Smalls, is that men have been told that women are smarter than them and they don't stand a chance.
Right.
But so when you look at, and people may want to challenge this, but when you look at high IQs, 80% of high IQs are men, 20% are women. So women can say slick things and run their mouth and just start yelling and talk over you, but that does not mean you are overpowered. However, if you go into it believing that she's already smarter than me, you've already lost.
Right.
It's not her that emasculated you. You emasculated yourself,
right,
and you bowed down because you were told that all women are smarter than you and you don't stand a chance. That's the thing that men need to get beyond, because if you look at the facts of life, to build a civilization with highways and skyscrapers and hospitals and education systems, it takes a lot of smart people. And men have done that. Women have never proved that they could actually do that successfully. So men need to take some credit for what they've done and what they continue to do since the first civilization was ever built. So men need to deal with that. And I say that in the same spirit that women who don't want the F boys, those women need to get something handled with themselves. And what Derrick Jaxn did is misled them and made it seem like you're fine the way you are. Just like the churches say, oh, don't worry, your Boaz is coming.
Right.
You're lying to them. No,
right.
There's something that about you that doesn't qualify for the kind of man you want. And men need to be okay with that. And women need to do something about that. So it's like, if what you're getting from the world, don't go out and try and beat the world up and change the world. It's you. There's something within you that needs to change. And that's the message women need to get deep down in their souls, that it's not the men, it's what you are qualified for. And if you don't want that anymore, then you need to do something about it.
Well, listen, I think that's an excellent point you said, Ted, because despair and deception starts in the mind. Whatever a man thinks, that's what he is. So right. Fair to point and fair to what Letitia said, I can see that from a theophilosophical position. But however, it still does not minimize the point. If I tell you you're hurting me, that's almost like if somebody disrespect Letitia and call her a mammy and a pygmy, and then the woman come by and say, well, you can't say that I disrespected you. But my logic is, who is that person to tell Letitia that those words did not bother her, even though we're looking at it from a philosophical perspective? I can't tell her what hurts her. To me, that's very insensitive, in my opinion. What's your take on that, Blair?
I agree. I agree. I'll just say that. I agree with you. I agree with you 100%.
So right, maybe right. Perhaps I'm insensitive. Right. Perhaps I'm insensitive. But no one can make you feel anything. And see, this is perhaps this is a two-way problem. So if both men and women are saying, you said something to me, and maybe I'm not, it has nothing to do with calling you names. It's like what women say about men say about women. When you critique women, they're responding as though it hurts them, and you can't talk about us this way. And so what they want is for you to just tell them things so that they feel good about themselves. So ultimately, no one can make you feel anything. No one can make you happy, sad, angry, depressed. No one can get in your head and pull levers like the Wizard of Oz, who said, ignore the man behind the curtain, because he's pulling all the levers. No one can do that to you. So, and that's the thing. So, maybe there's some transformational work that needs to happen amongst men, so that it's not about being Teflon and a superhuman. It's that you don't have that sensitivity that women have when men are telling women, these are things that are unacceptable. These are things that we want from you. And it's a gap for women, and women feel attacked and they feel unhappy. That has nothing to do with men. I have a right to say, this is unacceptable. And if you get upset about that, actually, that's your problem. And if you say that hurts you, that's still your problem. I'm telling you what's acceptable for me.
Right, and that's fair. I mean, but once again, that you have that's almost like a therapeutic concept, almost similar to Viktor Frankl and logotherapy. But that's Ted Santos. Ted Santos is cold-blooded, but everybody ain't Ted Santos. Everybody don't think like Ted. It's almost like we tend to look at things through the lens of our own subjective experiences. And I think what you're saying is true from a theological and a philosophical. You're right. But what I'm saying, we can't expect people. That's like you said, that's a transformative process that takes time, and it takes a lot of self-awareness. You don't garner that type of mental acuity overnight. It takes time to become that way. But if we don't think that thinking errors are not real, or we don't think words are not real, then we're greatly misled. In the clinical world, we talked about a maladaptive schema. A maladaptive schema are those thoughts that have been transmitted into a person's head. Now, you're right, Ted, how they respond to it based on their level of maturity is up to them, and if they're willing to change that maladaptive thought process. But once again, that takes therapy, that takes time, that takes self-awareness, and that takes identification. It takes all of that. Blair Nash, you got several books. I didn't bring them with me, but you got several books. The Relationship, Landmines. Can't think of the other two.
let me do it.
Yeah. Tell me about them, man. I get them confused.
Relationship, Landmines. So I have
Battlegrounds, I think, something like
that. Yeah. I have my first book is called Illuminating, ILL, Illuminating the Battlefield. Second book is called Love is a Beautiful Thing Till It Ain't. The third one is called The Discussion, Black Money, Sex, and Relationships. So yeah, those are my three books. Yes.
Okay. So let's say we took your book and used your book as an antidote to the malfeasance of Derrick Jaxn, which I call a snake whisperer. And before you tell us that, what would you say to Derrick Jaxn, the snake whisperer? Hold tight.
Follow me, baby. The elders are old and out of touch. I have the power to help you become the better version of yourself. Listen to me. I know what's best for you. I am the snake whisperer.
Yeah, Derrick Jaxn is a snake whisperer. He gets into the ears of men because, see, consistent with theology, it says deal with the woman in accord to knowledge, Blair Nash, because she is the weaker vessel. She's the weaker vessel. She feels the world. The man projects the world through power. So, it's almost like you got to, tap dance around her feelings. And I mean, I get it to some degree, but look, I don't have time to keep assuaging your feelings. It's time for you to grow up. Put your big girl panties on. Men on their purpose got time to deal with women that are not mature enough to evolve and not mature enough to do self-awareness. I understand you be gingerly to some damn degree, but they're not gingerly when they disrespect you with their mouth. They're not gingerly when they get in your face. They don't take your feelings into consideration as a man as it relates to honor and respect. So I'll take your feelings in consideration as you honor and respect me as a man. But see, when you're not honoring and respecting me as a man, I don't really give a damn about your feelings. I believe in reciprocity. You respect me, I respect you. If you're soft and respectful, then I'm going to treat you right. But if you keep defying and disrespecting me as a man, I don't care about your feelings. What would your book say about Derrick Jaxn as an antidote to him being the snake whisperer?
What I would say is that You know well, let me kind of shift a little bit and pivot. What I would say is basically, what if I was talking to Derrick Jaxn, I would say, brother, you are actually hurting us. You are hurting the momentum and the change that we are trying to put into effect here. You know, whether it be people like myself, you, Ted, you know, there's a stream of Black men out here that are trying to shift the whole narrative about Black men, about relationships, etc. And what I would say to Derrick is, you really are hurting us. We are trying to build and craft a boat, and you are sitting here and you got a shotgun and you keep shooting holes in the bottom of the boat. We're trying to get some momentum here and trying to help women to understand and honestly look at things with an honest lens. And it's hard to do that when you have a person like that and people like him, because unfortunately there are more Derrick Jaxns than there are guys like us who are going to be honest. There are more pastors and snake oil salesmen, to use your analogy. There are more men out there like that than there are guys like you, me, Ted, and the rest, and the few of us that are out here. And so that's the challenge, is how do you get this legion of women, this legion of Black women, to see and understand these guys are playing you, flat out playing you.
Right.
And so what happens is we get women who say, well, you're just looking at it wrong, and you're looking at it only from your perspective and your lens and everything else, instead of saying, is what I'm saying actually correct? Is what they're saying correct? And so once you start kind of pulling back the layers of it, I think you realize that most of these Black men out here are actually telling the truth. And so to guys like Derrick Jaxn, I would just say, you're hurting what we're trying to do. You're hurting what we're trying to do. That's it.
Well, Letitia, I want you to dissect it, because you are a matchmaker from Two Hearts Matchmaking Service. I think I got it right. And did I get it right? Well, damn, I came close. But and then I'm gonna ask Ted based on his book as well. But it appears that line men, more or less, Letitia, tend to aggrandize some of the pathologies that a lot of these women are dealing with, which in essence causes them to have, in the clinical world, what's called a syntonic ego, which in essence lead to them being delusional. And delusional personality disorder, a lot of times, is a byproduct of when you present the evidence to them, they don't respond to what the evidence is saying, Letitia. But they continue to look in the mirror, and they continue to laugh at themselves because they cannot hear what men are saying, because their ego is very syntonic. And we can show them the evidence, Letitia. You can show them stats, because you are Capricorn, no cap, all cap. And, you can show them the evidence. You can say that men are looking for a certain type of women, a certain type of metric. And they'll call you out of your name because they heard the snake whisper Derrick Jaxn say it's okay to be a certain way. Only men, insecure men won't date women that got kids by 5 different men and grossly overweight. But what would be your counterpoint, your pivot point to the chicanery of men like Derrick Jaxn from your professional service as a matchmaker? What would be your counterpoint to say Derrick Jaxn is causing specifically this, which in essence make my job as a matchmaker damn near impossible?
Okay, so I don't look at it as, I don't think Derrick Jaxn is the problem, right?
Okay, all right, fair enough.
I don't think him as in his business practice is the problem. I think him as a man is the problem. His F-boys are the problem, because they're validating women in real life. Unfortunately, these are the types of men that women want, and they're lying to women. They're manipulating women. I can't say they're manipulating them. I can't say that because it's very hard to be manipulated. But they are lying to them and telling them that they're beautiful, that they are sexy, that they want them. But what they're really not telling them is that, yeah, in the end, I will marry you. That's what makes it difficult. So him as a man is the problem. His F-boy antics, I think the biggest problem for me is not men. It's older women who will go against me. You know, older women who talk to younger women and say, "You're beautiful. You don't need to do all of that. I got a man just like this, right? I'm fine. I got my man." Because women listen to women who already reached that have the life that they want. And so unfortunately so the biggest problem for me is women. But I can see, to your point, that men who have the looks, who have the charm, who have the sex appeal, as long as they're continuing to sleep with women, give women some type of validation, give them what they need, that's gonna, it makes my job harder, because then women will come back and say, well, I get the type of man that I want. I've seen it on my page. I put a post. I said, women, if you want to get married, lose the weight, lose the attitudes. I think, Blair, you commented on that post. And what ended up happening on that post was women were like, well, I got my man. It didn't stop me. And then when you look at the type of man they got, it's not the type of man that most women would want, right? And then when I looked at the shares of that post and the subsequent comments under that post, all the women were attacking me. Well, this is a so-called self-professed matchmaker. This is a pygmy. She's being a mammy. So really the biggest problem is women taking other women down that road.
Okay, that's a good point. That's a good point, Letitia. But I think Derrick Jaxn does add to the malady as well. And I want you to tell me what you think, Ted. But in the meantime, guys, I want you guys to go hit that link. Go check out this book by my man, Edward Fields. It's called Emasculation. Some of you men are being emasculated once again. You've been told that you're not adequate enough. You've been emasculated by your moms. You have very maladaptive schemas, which more or less reduce your efficacy as a man. You've been told that you're inadequate, and you're dealing with schema afflictions, which in essence cause you to be in a state of peril. So I want you guys to go click on this link. I want you guys to go check out the book by my man, Edward Fields. Edward Fields is a therapist. He's a therapist just like myself, because I do believe in promoting male therapists. But also, Edward wrote a book called Emasculation. I want you guys to click on that link, go purchase several of his books. And also, I'm going to talk about Ted Santos' books. Blair Nash got several books as well. But Ted Santos, how would your book be the antidote to the malfeasance of Derrick Jaxn?
So I'll say my book is more the antidote to the title of the show.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you a question first. Everyone knows who Usain Bolt is. Do you think he earned and deserved a gold medal in the Olympics? Mm-hmm. I'm asking you.
Do I think he deserved to earn it?
Yeah. Do you think he earned and deserved that gold medal that he won?
Yeah, of course he did, in my opinion.
Why do you think so?
Because he put in the work, he practiced, he prepared himself for the mission of winning that gold medal.
Great, perfect. So that's really what my book talks about. The book is called Here's Why You Can't Find Love. And the reason people can't find love is because they're looking for it. People go into relationships backwards. They go in looking for love. And what's not being taught is that love does not, and I bet if we look historically, love has never created a great relationship, especially when we look at what people believe love is. But love does not create a great relationship. Love is a byproduct of a great relationship. So instead of going into a relationship looking for love, the wise thing to do is to go in looking for someone who knows how to create a great relationship. And that means you need to know how to create a great relationship. Most people believe they deserve love, but we can talk about how Usain Bolt deserved and earned gold medals. But why do most people believe they deserve love? If you are dysfunctional and do not know how to create a great relationship, you do not know how to create a sustainable relationship, why should anyone love you? That may sound harsh, but why should I invite you into my life and all you bring is dysfunction? Why should I love you?
I agree with that.
What most people are saying is love, and you know this, Seven. When you meet someone, you get all these dopamine and oxytocin and endorphins secreting in your body, and you feel good. That has nothing to do with love. Love has nothing to do with the feelings that we think we have. If you know how to create a really good relationship, love is going to grow out of that. If all you create is dysfunction, all you're going to have are these biochemical secretions, and you'll end up having lots of makeup sex and all kinds of crazy dysfunctional things. So,
right. I agree. I agree.
So to your title, love is not enough. You know, we don't know what was happening in his marriage. On the outside, people may say, well, it was love, but clearly, if it wasn't a good relationship, love has nothing to do with having a relationship with someone.
Yeah. I agree with that, Ted. Excellent point. Very, 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 very good point. So your position is that you can't a broken vessel can't pour into an empty cup. Is that fair to say?
A broken vessel can't pour. Yeah, a broken vessel. You mean a vessel with leaks? Like someone shooting, like who said that? Shotguns shooting holes in the boat.
Right.
You have nothing to pour in. You're empty too.
Right. That's my point. Right. So your logic is they both must have a level of self-awareness in order to complement one another, instead of one being a pariah or a parasite, which in essence is calling the next one the suffering that toxic circular karmic relationship. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at it in a relationship, a marriage, on a day-to-day basis, what's your level of integrity? Does it exist or is it low? How do you resolve conflict? Because conflicts happen in relationships. It happens with your spouse, with your children. If you're poor at resolving conflict, you're always going to have conflicts. And the secret to conflict resolution almost never has anything to do with the other person or the situation. It's dealing with your own internal conflicts or triggers. And if you don't know how to manage that, you're in trouble. So, what's your relationship to money? How do you manage it? Your health, your mental health, like all of these things are much more important in your day-to-day life and managing a relationship and coming together. How do you deal with intimacy? How do you express it? Like all of these things are important. So when I wrote my book, you said not everyone's a Ted Santos. So I wrote the book so that the reader takes a journey of personal transformation so that they can have a better sense of who they are, so they understand who's compatible with them and what works in a relationship. So you first need to understand how people sabotage relationships, and then you can talk about how to build a great relationship.
Guys, once again, I want 5 guys to go purchase that book by my man, Edward Fields. He's a licensed therapist. Kevin Sanders was a proponent of mental wellness and mental health. I need 5 guys to go purchase this book by this brother. I do believe in supporting other male clinicians. I want you guys to go check out Blair Nash's books as well. I promoted his books, Ted Santos' book. And if some of you guys that are single and looking for a good woman, Letitia Underwood, the matchmaker, might can find a woman that you're looking for.
Charles Curry put up a really good comment.
Okay, what did Charles Curry say? Go ahead.
He said, but was society even taught how to create the relationship? I've heard older women tell younger women, you can learn to fall in love with them, child. And there's a problem, right? So perhaps the bigger problem is in the past, thousands of years.
Do me a favor, because you'll get long when I love you.
No.
Hold tight, Ted. Because Blair got to go in a few minutes.
I can say this in less than 30 seconds.
Okay, go ahead.
Let him finish. Yeah.
Go ahead, Ted.
So relationships were arranged or semi-arranged. And now people are trying to do it on their own and they haven't figured it out. And there's the problem. People need more input from their parents and elders around them to choose the right person.
No, I agree with you. You're right. I agree with you 1,000%, Ted. You're right. And I think that's part of the malady that we're seeing now. It's a lack of socialization, the lack of parenting, the lack of women being trained to be wise. Letitia, we're going to talk about your book in a minute as well. But Blair, you got to go, man. I love you, man. I don't know what happened to you and I at the time. Did we get the time mixed up? Because I know I'm almost sore.
No. We got the time right. Time's cool.
Okay.
Yeah. You're good. Right. You're good. You're good.
But from a man's perspective, why are so many women, Blair Nash, slaves of hope? I call it hocus pocus. But why?
Wow.
why are so many slaves of hope, Blair Nash?
Yeah.
They call it hocus pocus.
Magical
thinking.
They've been, I tell my wife this all the time. A lot of our women, unfortunately, have been lied to for literally like now 3 generations. They've been told a story, and I mentioned this to you on the last time that we did this podcast. I have a chapter in my book called The Disney Complex. And basically what it is it's basically speaking to the parable that everything for a woman is going to go right just because she's a woman, and that no matter how bad her attitude, no matter how overweight, no matter, whatever the scenario, everything is going to be okay. And she's going to have a great guy who's going to dote on her, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of these women have been told this almost since their infancy. And so now that they're adults, they're now getting into this world and they're finding out, and they come with this belief and this mindset that I actually am deserving of this, that. Yes, it doesn't matter if I'm, 300 pounds. It doesn't matter if I have a kind of a slick mouth and whatever. The right man, a real man, as they like to try and use.
A real man, right.
A real man, right. Mm-hmm. A real man is going to love me past that. And so what is happening with a lot of our women is they are seeing themselves, unfortunately, cycle out of the dating market. And so they go through, their 20s, 30s, 40s, and they keep believing, kind of like Ted said, that their Boaz is just right around the corner. And what men are trying to say is, baby, you are losing time. You are losing time. Don't play into this game and this delusion that's been set up by society to have you believe that, he's going to be right around. You got to put in some sweat equity with this. And so, unfortunately, a lot of our women, and I say this all the time, many of our women are very smug and have such an attitude that they think that everything is going to be okay. And they look at men like you, like Ted, like myself, right, and they just snicker and like, it'll come, you'll see. Instead of saying, you know what, maybe these guys are right. Maybe the whole line of thought and the whole lane that I'm in is not working for me. And so it's just, Ted and I have had talks, you and I have had talks. It's frustrating to help women to understand, to get women to understand the road you're on is a losing road. You are losing. Right. And each and every year that goes by that you have all these phenomenal phrases of manifestation and all this, you're losing out here. And so that's the thing that's just very hard to get our women to understand.
Yeah. Maybe, men need women to be like Avant. When Avant said, love me when it hurts, but, they can't love you when it hurts because they're very solipsistic. They cannot think outside of themselves and their feelings. It takes a very disciplined woman, similar to what Ted talked about in a few seconds, that transformative process that will cause a woman to self-introspect and do like the old women of old says, not my sister, it's not my brother, but it's me, oh Lord, I'm standing in the need of prayer. But they can't hear it, Blair Nash, because they have cognitive dissonance. And men are checking out. They're checking out in droves, in my opinion. They're checking out because it's a response, Blair, Ted, and Letitia, to the lack of hearing the concerns of the average day guy, the average Joe, the average brother, they don't have the swag or the Janae qual like a Derrick Jaxn. That's not quite 6'5", 6'6" like myself. Now, I'm not built like Derrick Jaxn, but him and I are the same height. And so, they're just checking out. They say, enough is enough. I'll go somewhere where a woman can love me when it hurts. And she got my back. When I'm making $35,000, she's saying, look, I still love you. I'm going to work with you. We're going to build this empire together. But you got these chicks that want you to come already, made. But what are you giving him in return? Nothing. You're not giving him anything of substance to build foundational and generational wealth because you see yourself as the prize. But I came up with a term, Blair, called the prize catcher, and I stand on that. Men might not can't 100% actualize their prize worthiness within the contextual framework of America, but I say succinctly, and like Isaac Hayes said, I stand accused, men are the prize catchers. Men determine if she is prize worthy. She could be the prize in her head, but the man is the prize catcher. He determines if she's have a level of redeeming value that makes her his prize. Because consistent with what BGS Edmore and Ron Will say, Water seeks his own level. If a woman is a 1, That man is a one. If that woman that's a one can't get nothing higher than a one, then how can she be the prize when she's constantly looking up to him? In this contextual milieu, in this gynocratic culture, the essence of a man is minimized because of the laws. But watch this. Not only does theology say the man is the prize, because theology say the woman is the glory of man. But then on top of that too, women have no power but the power that man give them. Just like the devil, he has no power but the power that God give him. So when people say, oh, you think men, oh, we are the prize. We might not be the prize at full optimization here in America, but once again, men created the laws, but also men gave women the power to turn around and oppress men with those same said laws. What say you, Blair, real quick?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, one of the things that I try and help women, I try to get women to understand, no one is really trying to beat down and as the term, what's the term they have? No one's trying to punch down on women, so to speak. What men are saying is, in order to get to a different mindset, there's going to have to be a level of humility. And I give a parable a lot of times where I say it's very similar to a person who is going through a 12-step program. If you know anybody that's gone through drug abuse, alcohol abuse, etc., gambling addiction, one of the first things you have to do is say, I am an alcoholic. I have a problem, right? Until that happens, nothing is going to work. Right, until you say to yourself, I have a problem, nothing is going to work. Right. And the hard part about dealing with our women is just getting them to see that they actually have a problem, because it's like this cycle. They've been told for decades now that they are not the issue and they are not the problem. And what Black men universally are now saying is, we're not here to say that there aren't Black men out here who aren't whatever. We are saying that Black women, there's a lot of you guys out here that are the problem. And how do you get our women to see, clearly and say, yeah, we got a lot of work to do. Not men, not having to do with men, just women themselves have a lot of work to do. It's hard to get that message across to women because automatically there's I think you said it, Ted, there's kind of a lever in their head that pulls and they automatically deflect back to something about Black men. Right. And so it's so hard to get a message across to our sisters because they're automatically like, I got something to say about brothers though. Instead of saying, does he have a point? Right. Are we as Black women are we really a challenge to our men? Is it really a struggle? So that's it. But yeah, on that note, I got to go because I have a 9:30. But
yes, sir, man. Yeah. Listen, man, I love you, brother, man. It always seems can go by so fast, man. I can talk with you, Ted, and Letitia for hours. We're going to have to plan another show, man. Where we can plan it out for 2 hours. And remember, I'm Eastern Standard. I
am too. I'm Eastern. Yeah.
Oh, you Eastern? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway,
and I heard that little dig you made about North Carolina OSU and everything. We coming for your ass though. I heard you.
Go Bucks, man. Go Bucks, man. We put that basketball
Buckeye Nation, man. We coming.
All right. Letitia, go ahead, sweetie. I want you to add to Chris Strongheart.
All right. Let me just say this. Ted and Letitia, good seeing both of you. I hate the fact we always got to see each other online and everything, but good seeing the both of you.
No doubt.
All right. God bless you both. God bless everybody and happy holidays if I don't see you before then.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Chris Strongheart, you can come on up, brother. Come on up, Chris. You're a millennial. I want to hear from your position. But Letitia, you saw that Leo swag, so I saw you shaking your head. So, you're a logical thinking woman, so she must say, you must like some of the things I was saying. But what was resonating, Letitia, from the things that I was saying that made you say, he got some good points?
No, I wasn't shaking my head.
Oh my God! She's trying to cap that. She capped it.
No, I'm just okay because I was just listening. And I'm like, when you guys are saying, well, we want to be. So it seems as if neither side feels as if they're being heard, right? And neither side is interested in listening to the other. It's just more of the finger pointing of, well, you did this. You're doing this, something I don't like, or I need you to step up. And instead of fixing that and focusing on that, men just came back with a sucker punch and it was like, well, you're fat. You're not who I really want anyway. You're ugly. You got all these kids. You got stretch marks. So it's like if you're gonna say, well, women need to listen to men, how can you expect them to listen when they don't feel as if they're being heard either?
But we have been listening to women, Letitia, for the last 40 plus
Really?
years. Oh, I think we have.
So,
I think.
okay, so
But hold on, I'm gonna let you cook. I think men have been berated for the last 40 plus years about their inadequacies. I think it's a concept called overgeneralization, where we castigate a percentage of men and we equivocate that castigation to say all men. So say Ted was an engineer, say I was a blue collar worker. Me and Ted had nothing to do with the malfeasance that's going on. We didn't do anything wrong. We were just good average guys. We stayed to ourselves. But those women would equivocate, and that's a thinking error. They would equivocate the men that hurt them, and they will project their pain to, say 5 men hurt them, they might project their pain to 100 men based on their sample size. That's mental illness, because you have not come in contact with the 100 men that you're projecting your pain to, and that's a problem. And I'm gonna be fair, men overgeneralize too sometimes. Let's be real. I'm gonna be fair. But the point is, you know, I remember in the 90s when men they were down in men, and I wasn't part of the problem. I didn't get kids out of wedlock. I was in church saying yes law. I was going to school. I didn't do none of that. So where do I come into the equation? And the other brothers that were doing the right thing, but we get the blame for the percentage based on the men that used them and hurt them and abused them. Go ahead.
So if it doesn't apply, let it fly. Because it seems as if you heard women saying, I don't want a scrub, I don't want a broke man, I don't want a dusty man, you know, I don't want this, I don't want that, or you men are broke and you cheat and all this other stuff. And then y'all took that to mean they were talking about all women. No, they were talking about the men who are actually doing those things. And then you turn around and say, well, no, that's not true. Yeah, it is true for those men. And if women felt as if they were heard or listened to, then those men would get themselves together, and they're not. So women aren't talking to all men. All of y'all are not in that pot. They're talking to the men that they actually want. And it's not, and so and then you can't turn around and say, well, I'm not part of that problem. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. And I'm like, but they're not talking to you because you're not who they want. And secondly, when it comes to the cheating aspect, I've listened to Kevin Samuel's show, and I've heard this reverberated throughout the manosphere. Men, even average men, are now picking up this talking point that men don't cheat. They just exercise their options, especially if they have a lot of resources, and they should be allowed to, right? So now men are chastising women for leaving relationships where they feel disrespected, because infidelity is a disrespect. Not saying that's the majority of men, but when you have men who even don't cheat say, yeah, I won't do it, but hey, men do it. You know, men do it, and you shouldn't leave that man just because he cheated. Or, you know, he lied, you know, or he's, you know, I just hearing some of these conversations from these men. And it's like, well, okay, so where's the lie? Where are women lying at, right? But they're not talking about all men. They're not even talking about I can say that is the majority of men. But when it comes to the cheating, yes, statistics show the majority of men aren't cheating. When it comes to the abuse, okay, the statistics show the majority of men aren't abusing. But women aren't talking about the majority of men. They're talking about the men that they're dealing with. So when they're complaining, they're talking about the men that they're dealing with.
Right. In theory, what you're saying is true, but that's not what they're saying. Words have meaning and words have power. If I was sitting down with a therapist and a woman said that, I would say, ma'am, that's a thinking error, because you're overgeneralizing. You're castigating your aspersions based on your own pain to a whole populace of men. I understand what you're saying, Letitia, but it's still mental illness, because you can't. Even if their intentions is one thing, their words is something totally different. If I came out and said that, you know, black folks are lazy, then based on what I did, I castigated the whole populace of black people and said that black folks are lazy. Even though my experience might have been 5 or 6 that I worked with, I still castigated the whole black race or the whole black ethnos as being racist. Ted, what do you say about that from your perspective? Go ahead, brother.
I'd want to know if women are in relationships with men that abuse them, why are they staying? Because the majority of women do not end up in relationships with men that abuse them. So it's almost like, and Blair was alluding to it, it's like there's an addiction. You talked about hope, an addiction to hope. But so an addiction to alcohol or substance is never the problem. It's a symptom of a problem. So my assertion is that if a woman stays in an abusive relationship, she's addicted to that abuse. And abuse is not the problem. It's a symptom of really how she sees herself. And she, for some reason, she's not able to get into a relationship with a man who will not abuse her. And that's the bigger problem. That you're saying that, well, women don't want that guy. Well, why do they keep wanting the guy who's lousy and cheats, and he's an alcoholic, he's abusive? Why isn't she qualifying for the guy who will treat her well? And it's hard to hear that, well, those guys don't exist. I mean, there's like some addiction to a way of thinking that can't be, that they haven't worked through to get rid of. And I think that's a bigger problem. And that's the thing that has turned off so many men. And I've lived abroad, and I've seen how women are how they relate to themselves and men is very different. And I didn't go abroad for women. That was my own personal aspiration to spend a number of years living abroad.
Right.
And men are going abroad and seeing what I saw and finding that much more favorable.
Fair point. Chris Strongheart, you are a millennial. How would you like to add to the conversation, and also about Derrick Jaxn being a snake whisperer?
What's good, brother? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. It's been a long time, man. I thought about you
Coach,
about a week ago, man. Yes,
It's
sir.
been a
How you
minute,
doing,
man.
young man? Go ahead.
That's good, brother. Good to see you, man.
But Chris, hold tight, because I want to hold tight, because I'm gonna prove my point, Letitia. Chris, hold tight. But Letitia, you know what? This is one of the reasons why men are saying what they're saying, because Chris Strongheart now, we're in Brazil, and men are frustrated.
When you date a woman and she may be a potential wife, it's a competition thing all the way. I can't take it no more.
They feel propped up because they feel more beholden to the government. And then their man comes second. That's why they figure that they're strong, independent, don't need no man, because they have the government.
Because the men are failing us, to be honest. Guys thinking about themselves, and they'll think about you after you react.
You don't hear anything about being good wives and all this other stuff. What you hear is you're strong and you independent. You can do it on your own. You got black girl magic, black girl rock, but you ain't said nothing about black family.
My mother is like what they consider to be the strong black woman. I feel like I projected that onto the guys that I dated.
Ladies have no idea how stiff their competition really is. You have no clue how black men are viewed in the rest of the world. We are the #1 most sexually desired man on the face of this planet.
They would call Jesus Dusty if he was here living in America, because of the gross narcissism that a lot of our women have.
Men are frustrated, and is it safe to say that the shenanigans of Derrick Jaxn is adding to the problem? Go ahead, young lion.
Yeah. All right, cool. My mic is good?
It's perfect, man. Go ahead.
All right, cool. No problem. First of all, Derrick Jaxn, man, this dude is a fake and a fraud, man. I'm glad he was exposed.
For the second time.
Yes, exactly. For a second time. Men on this side of the YouTube have been exposing this man. We've been talking about this man. We've been telling women, especially black women, that this man means you no good. And the exact women that he is trying to paint the picture of to try to tell black men, oh yeah, y'all need to be, good men. And, these are the type of women. And he basically is propping up the type of women that he knows that he's not even attracted to try to shake these females down and get money out of them. Everybody's seen what it is. Everybody knows his game. He's trying to be like another Steve Harvey type dude. Like, his thing is that, if I can go over here, because Derrick Jaxn already knows that he's already seen as what they call a select guy within the black community. And he was using that to his advantage. Before Derrick Jaxn even had a platform, I'm sure he was getting all types of clout and attention from black females already. So he just used his powers to his advantage. And he continued to lie to women until his lies could go no further. wanted to continuously try to address black men in a way to say that it's almost like we're wrong for trying to hold women accountable. And he wants to be the antithesis of that, and or he wants to be the opposite of that, and basically say that no, there's nothing wrong with these women. Y'all should accept this behavior. Y'all should do this and this, or men, y'all need to do better in these, in certain situations, to basically say that the reason for their behavior is our fault, right? It's our fault, right? That the women in the community act this type of way, but it's just like, how can you say that when you are the exact person that you were talking to and talking about the whole time? You were the F boy, you were the con artist, you were the snake man, bro, and you got found out. You know what I mean? You got straight found out, and brothers caught on, early. But the problem is that his audience, which was most majority women,
right,
was propping him up. He was getting money off of these women. He was getting his fame off of these women.
Right.
And they didn't want to hear it when other men were trying to talk them off the ledge. Like, this is not the dude. We can see through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree, man. I agree with you guys. I agree with you 1,000%. Shout out to my man, Andrew Baker. And I think Andrew Baker says it perfectly. He says, salute kosher and panel. Derrick is just an opportunist like advertisers, preachers, or anyone else that use a woman's narcissistic mind against herself to make tons of money. Accountability is the kryptonite to women, and I agree with that a lot of, in part, because it's tied to solipsism. But because of that, Andrew Baker, and your love and your kindness, Andrew Baker, you are the #1 sponsor of this stream. Thank you, sir. Letitia, I saw your analytical mind spinning, and I said earlier that Derrick Jaxn is causing a lot of hocus pocus with a lot of modern women. Are modern women slaves, in your opinion, to Derrick Jaxn's hocus pocus? I know you see it from a counterintuitive perspective, but I want you to be the devil's advocate for a minute. What role is Derrick Jaxn playing to the magical thinking of modern women? Because you've been through it in your matchmaking service. April Mason have, even though I don't particularly care about her as well, because I think she's a fraud, and also Rebecca Lynn Pope, which I think is a fraud. But that's just my own opinion. But from your matchmaking service, how is Derrick Jaxn causing the hocus pocus phenomenon, which is magical thinking? Be the devil's advocate.
I am being devil's advocate, just not in the direction you want me to be.
Okay, well, go ahead, sis. Go ahead.
But I think I said this earlier. I was like, so men like him give women a sense of false hope that they're gonna get chosen, that they're gonna get picked, that they can be however they want to be, and men will still choose them, and they'll get married and live this happily ever after. And when I talk to women, and when I tell them, okay, so yes, you want a man like Derrick Jaxn. You want a man who looks good. You want a man who would sex appeal. You want a man who's going to look like he's funny, witty, smart, and good looking. First and foremost, and most of all, he's going to give you a good time in bed. But that man is more likely going to break your heart, because you know this, because that's who you've been dealing with all this time. All these good-looking men with all these attributes, they got women circling around them. It's only a matter of time before that's going to come and bite you in the butt.
Right.
So then women turn around and tell me I'm wrong because they're getting what they want. But I'm like, yeah, are you really though? Because are you getting what you want? I mean, because if you were getting what you want, then you wouldn't be so unhappy on social media. You wouldn't be so unhappy going from room to room, complaining about men like him, men who cheat, men who are broke, men who you call quote unquote dusty. So you're not getting what you want. So to get what you want, this is what you need to do to qualify for that man. But then I'm called a pick me, a mammy, and ageism comes out. And all other types of things. So as long as men like him continue to validate women, i.e. have sex with them, give them a little trinket or two, take them out, make them feel special, then yes, it's always going to be hard for women to see and understand that you're not going to get chosen for marriage.
Letitia, some have said that women are just like children. What's your take on that, man?
Well, I say that all the time. Women are women. What it seems as if a lot of women had got stunted at some point during their adolescence.
I agree with that. Yes.
So they act like spoiled, entitled, immature girls.
Right.
I think they are they're stuck by the man who imprinted, the first man that imprinted on them. And usually, a lot of young girls have. A lot of women have been imprinted on in their teenage years. So there's that.
I totally agree with that. You're right.
There's that one guy.
You're right.
She had high attraction for. She was in love with, and she had a level of immaturity and did not know how to deal with him and deal with that situation. But because he never corrected her, dealt with her in a way that would get her to change her behavior. She's now dealing with that using that behavior to deal with every man she's coming across.
Right. I like that. Good job, Tish. Go ahead.
So, and I say that it's adolescence because most girls have not been raised with a father. So there's not this father that's there to correct their childish behavior. Girls are going to be girls. Women are going to be women. We're emotional. And there are times where our emotions can get the best of us and overtake us. Mothers don't seem to account for that very well. It's usually fathers, very strong masculine fathers, who tend to balance that out. So when she doesn't have a father, then now she's dealing with men in her teenage years, and she's dealing with a man that she has high attraction for, and he's not correcting that. He's not handling that. So now she's moving on as an adult, and she's still trying to date and deal with men like she did with that first guy.
And you're 1,000% correct, Tish. I actually did a short on that, and I'm gonna show it to you in a minute. The imprint is real. Me and Ted talked about hybristophilia. We talked about it several times, and some of these women have been so imprinted by men from their past that they continue to project their pain or that undeveloped psyche of theirs towards men that haven't done anything to them. Ted, what's your take on what Letitia said about that imprint? We've talked about it before in the past, but I want you to elaborate.
Well, there's a second imprint that no one has corrected, and perhaps Black men have been most negligent in correcting it. And the imprint came from the whole women's power movement. So, I mean, if you look at it, women are angry at 100% of men when it's only 1% of men who are creating policies that govern wages, right? So it's illogical for women to be angry at most men. It's only a tiny percentage of men who do that. And the irony is women will make themselves sexually available to those 1%. They're not angry with them. They will be available for them. And if you look specifically at the Black community, Black women were told many lies about what their men were doing, that they were not paying them the same. They were making policies, that they were abusive, and Black women bought it. And I think that's a big part of the frustration of Black men. It's like you were sold propaganda and you never came to grips that you were lied to. You bought into it and you doubled down and supported it more. And I think that's the really big problem, because women were imprinted with those messages and then they passed them on to several generations. And as you said, Seven, here we are 40, 50 years with the same propaganda being passed down, and women are acting out of things that didn't happen. And let me just say one last thing is I've heard in the 80s, I heard many women say, well, you might not be doing it, but your grandfather did it. And they have no proof. It's like an overgeneralization. And so they're angry about something that didn't happen, and they don't even have any proof that it happened. And so that's part of what we're dealing with here.
No, I totally agree. And Tish, she did a good point. She said what she said was correct. Gregory Scotland said, Culture, why do you think so many black men keep wanting to have faith in the American woman? Do they think they are goddesses? Some of it is the goddess complex, Gregory Scotland, I think. Some of it is the over-identification with the feminine and being around women. Some of it is an undeveloped ego as it relates to men being men and standing in masculine principles. And some of it is part of a man's nature. Men by nature want to save and fix things. So they keep trying to use logic to fix an issue that's based on emotion and feeling. Oil and water, it's just like oil and water. Oil and water just don't mix. We just don't think the same. That's why these conversations become very circular, because we don't think the same. I can point out one thing and Ted will see exactly where I'm coming from. Letitia, she gets it in part, but I would say Letitia gets it more than most women. But still, there's a chasm between how men and women, how we think. And that's not to be disrespectful, Tish. You know I love and respect you. But we just don't think alike. We don't. I think we enmesh our philosophical and our worldviews and our own like experiences into what I call the cornucopia. But we just don't think alike. But hold tight, because Letitia's right. And this is going to make Letitia famous. Hold tight. Less enjoying the foundations of the relationship. And so, you got these guys that are, they are advocates for saving the community. And I'm not against that in theory, but being a pragmatist and seeing the world for what it is, I would say that it's done, it's over. The current community must be burnt down and be rebuilt back up again, because once again, as I said on yesterday, you can't take new wine, guys, and put it into old wineskin. You got to more or less change the wineskin. But what you men don't understand on tonight is that you are dealing with women that have been imprinted. They've been imprinted because when they went to college, Chorenzo, he blew her back out. And once again, she's saying, you thought she was saying moo, but she was really saying Ru, because, Chorenzo was an omega. And Chorenzo also, he wasn't a omega. He got it imprinted. And now when she is married to Ted, she can't enjoy sex, because she got her toes curled like that witch on the Wizard of Oz. Chris Strongheart, what's your take on this whole malady? Because, hocus pocus is keeping a lot of women single, Chris Strongheart. And it's to the point that you were in the movie with me frustrated. You went abroad in Brazil. What is the succinct difference, Chris, that you see in foreign women? We know foreign women are not perfect compared to the American extract, based on your own subjective opinion.
Well, for the most part, the biggest thing is the culture. You know what I'm saying? It's a difference in culture is the biggest thing, first and foremost. They are in a culture that teaches them to be more family oriented. They're not looking to fight their men necessarily. They're not in competition with their men. And also, us as being American men, when we go to these different places, we have a good reputation. You know what I'm saying? Black men, especially when we go to places like, Thailand, Philippines, Brazil, Colombia, even DR, the places that brothers will go. One of the biggest contributing factors is the fact that we have a good reputation. So my thing is, it's like when we get out of America, we can see the contrasting difference between how black men move versus when American black women move in certain areas and how they get when they get overseas, because we see it, because every now and then we'll bump into them, we'll see them out there, and they're usually grouped to themselves. They only will they only will really deal with themselves. They don't really get out there and try to get into the culture, the language, the people. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't generally happen that way. It doesn't usually happen that way. A lot of time when we bump into them, it's like, mostly we ain't really going to address them. But if we do, it's usually a bunch of questions about why y'all here. And it's just like, I'm sorry, Mom, we don't need to ask you for permission to move about how we feel as though we need to move. I mean, because brothers who travel get a lot of heat, they get a lot of smoke in regards to what they're traveling for. And my biggest thing is it's none of your damn business, to be completely honest, but we'll tell you. I mean, you may be bothered by it. That's fine. That's your problem. But the thing is, it's just like, you don't control how we move and why we move. we'll give you the grace of saying, okay, this is why. But beyond that, it's not up for debate, and we don't have anything to prove to you. And because very often the conversations will turn into, well, y'all just going over there for this and that. Y'all just going for. First of all, we don't need to discuss with you. We don't need to discuss with you about why we do what we do. Right. First and foremost, this is us communicating to other men, letting other men know there are greater places to deal with women outside of the United States. You don't have to put up with this nonsense. You don't have to fight these women in the, not following the Derrick Jaxn. Follow Derrick Jaxn if that's what you feel like you need to do. We'll tell you once or twice that brother is not the one that y'all need to follow after. But at the end of the day, so many of these women act as though they're their own race, even because they have separated from us politically, spiritually, mentally. Who are you? We share the same phenotype, and generally that's generally about it. Everything else, usually we're on completely different levels in the understanding of how to have a family, traditionalism, raising a family, things that, having the man as head of the household. These things are so out of whack and out of balance nowadays that men, especially men who are my age and younger than me, we're not here to play this game anymore with y'all. We're gone. Okay, brothers are moving about, they're dating out, they're passporting out, they're doing their thing. So if you want to stand 10 toes down on defending the Derrick Jaxn or defending your points in the community, oh, it's not our fault, we didn't do this, it's y'all need, whatever. Have the conversation. We're over here. You can talk about it when I'm on an island with a drink in my hand somewhere in Costa Rica. It is what it is. Have it. That's where I stand on it.
Well, Chris, they said they don't care about y'all men traveling. Hold on for a minute. Cody Marshall said he said what we as American black men need to start protecting our image. Our reputation is a priority, and I agree with that 1,000%. Cody Marshall. It sounds like Andrew Baker agrees with you, Chris. Ted, what was women ain't do your head based on what this young man said? That's a millennial, because the millennials and the post-Y generation, and I think Letitia's daughter generation, they're not gonna put up with what you and I did, Ted, Gen X and baby boomers or hybrid boomers. I'll call you a hybrid boomer. But go ahead, Ted.
So I didn't put up with it. So I'm not sure what you're talking about. That's why I said the whole can't be emasculated. You put your foot down. As Letitia said, we're stronger. So what is a woman going to do? So anyway, that's not your question. So I lived abroad for a number of years. I didn't travel. I wasn't a passport, bro. I wasn't going abroad looking for women. I went abroad, man. I lived in the jungle with Mayan Indians. I did off the beaten trail stuff. But I did see how brothers were coming into other countries and even living here in the U.S., I've dated women from all over the world. It's not as simple as a lot of guys think, just going overseas to get another woman. Some women, that's a business model. They have 4, 5, 6 guys sending them money. They do know that that brothers here in the U.S. are not treated the same as women in those countries treat their men. So they sometimes may not see you in the highest light. But the biggest problem I think is that this is a repeat of desegregation. And a lot of people don't realize that desegregation is what really hurt the Black community, because once Blacks moved into other areas, they took their intellectual capital, the example of a psychologist, an engineer, attorney, a doctor, and they left a void, and the people who filled it were drug dealers and pimps. And so now men are leaving again and taking their money and their brain power to other countries. I have a concern about that in 40 years, you're going to look back and see that it created a void. So, and I'll say that living abroad, man, the one thing that is that there are aspects that a woman is a woman. She's going to get upset and emotional about things that didn't happen. You're going to just see that anywhere. She's going to have her menstrual cycle, and the hormones are going to be racing. There's some things you're just going to deal with. She's going to have hypergamy. It's just not going to cost the same that it costs as a woman here. You're getting cents, pennies on a dollar. But if you don't know how to deal with the women in those countries, what you're going to find out is that the problem of entitlement of women in the United States, the real source of it is that men were one-upping one another. And so if I took a woman out to buy ice cream, Seven, you took her out for ice cream in a movie, and then Chris, he took her out for dinner, and then Blair takes her to the Bahamas for a first date. I don't want to compete with that. So now you're going abroad and doing the same thing. You're one-upping the guys in those countries, and in just a matter of time, those women are going to feel entitled. And in Dominican Republic, they're already starting to see it. So the bigger point I'm making is learn to put your foot down. Letitia may not like what I'm going to say, but don't be afraid to put your foot on a woman's neck no matter what country you're in. And when you can do that in the US, you can solve the problem. Because if you're not doing it in another country, eventually you're going to have the same entitled woman that you had here. And where are you going to go next? I don't know. You're going to go to the moon or Saturn? I don't know.
Well, Letitia, Ted, keep it 100. What would you like to add to the conversation? How would you like to add to it?
So why he thought I would have an issue with him saying you got to put your foot on the woman's neck. I say that all the time. I say that you guys are the reason why women are out of pocket because you listen. Women will always do. And this is part of why women are like children. Children will always test the boundaries, right?
That's true. I agree.
Always test authority.
Right.
Women, through their emotional state, will always try to test you. And that's that immaturity that comes in. It's for a man to check that and not let up. You don't sit there and complain about how she's behaving. You simply tell her, I'm not putting up with it. And if you don't know how to get on with my program, then you get gone. But
yes, ma'am. I agree.
And say, I know, I need you to not talk to me like that. I need you not to be like this. No, you tell her, listen, you're either going to get right or you're going to get gone.
Yes, ma'am.
Simple as that.
I agree.
So I don't know why Ted said that. Ted and I talk a lot, so I don't know why he think I would.
Well, they used to say you're going to get down or lay down. And in other countries, men don't tolerate what men here tolerate. They don't tolerate disrespect. They don't tolerate back talk. They don't tolerate getting in the man's face. I was in Brazil with Chris the first time. A woman was yapping and whatever. The man yelled at her. She started crying and she shut up. They just don't do. They don't do all that talking, man. Got time to do a bunch of damn talking. You stressing yourself out. Your blood pressure's high, and I'm not gonna keep arguing with you. I'm gonna show you better than I can tell you. Bruno Mars said, "Don't believe me. Just watch." That's what Bruno said, Ted and Chris and Letitia. He said, "Don't believe me. Just watch." Mm-hmm. And I think in the next 20 years, if they don't pass legislation to stop men traveling, you're gonna see a lot more men going to countries where they're truer patriarchies, and they're gonna get with women they can get with their program because. All too damn long, you got a bunch of emasculated men. Guys, go check out Edward Field's book, Emasculated. You guys need to go check that book out. That book is very comprehensive, and it's a book that could save your life. You got some very good talking points. Also, Ted Santos' book, and also if you're into dating, check out Letitia Underwood's book as well. But a lot of men are beginning to check out, man. That they're just saying the juice ain't worth the squeeze. You saw the clip, Letitia, about men saying they're frustrated. And they're traveling abroad. What's your take on the new passport movement, Letitia? Starting with you, then Ted.
Okay, so this is the frustrating. This is the frustrating part, right? Because earlier, they're like, well, women are painting all men with this broad brush and generalizing.
That's true. I agree with that. I agree with you. You're right. I don't have a problem with that.
To me, it seems as if passport bros are painting Black women with this broad brush, because I can assure you, I have over almost 17,000 between my different platforms. I probably have 20,000 followers, right? And majority of the women who follow me are feminine. If they're not fit, they're getting on. They're working on that, right? They're working on trying to be more feminine, more fit, more friendly. And I never see men talk about those women. I never see them talk about those women. when I was watching the clip, I noticed, I'm like, wow, these are some very beautiful women, and yet they have wigs. Where are the natural hair sisters? Where are the pretty or beautiful natural hair sisters? The ones who barely wear makeup or no makeup at all. Why aren't there? Because there are a lot of those women that exist. There are a lot of women who are feminine. There are a lot of women who do love black men and want to be in a relationship with a black man and be good to him and be good with him, but those women don't get any shine. So you're saying, well, I'm just going to jump ship. Okay, more power to you. I agree with Ted that there's going to be this situation where I don't think the men of those areas are going to tolerate it, because American men, whether you have 25,000 or 40,000, you still have more money than the men there. And then you're going to come, and when that movement grows, you're going to have majority of those men now not being able to qualify for women, because all the women are going to want the American men because the American men can take care of them better. So what do you think is going to happen? You think those men are going to sit there and let American men just come in and take all the women, and then their men don't have any women? No, they're going to start enacting laws. At worst, they're going to start, God forbid, they even start getting violent about this situation. But if you feel as if you can't find what you're looking for here and you need to go abroad, go abroad. I really, me personally, I don't care. I'm indifferent towards it. But to answer the question, do what you feel is best, but just be careful and be smart about it.
Yeah. I don't. Maybe it might happen at some point in the near future. But here's the problem, Letitia. When men say that, remember, the average is the rule. You might have, say, I don't know, just say hypothetically, if you got 20% doing what you're saying doing, but 50% is doing what Chris is saying doing, then the rule always wins. It's an exception to the rule, and then there's the rule. So the rule wins. Are there outliers like the women you're talking about? Yes, ma'am, it is. But it's not enough in general based on their own perspective. And that's why they are generalizing. But I don't think they're overgeneralizing. Overgeneralization said there are no black women. Generalization said there are a few black women. Do you see the difference?
And so do you think that there's overabundance of men who are fit and qualified to be in relationships?
I think it's more men than women. I'm gonna tell you why. 33% of men are invisible. They're virgins. They've never been with women. They're the average Joe. They're the hardworking guys. They're the guys, the men that make $75,000. These women say it's not enough. I came up with a term, Letitia, called kosher hypergamy. Kosher hypergamy is fit and proper. I believe that's what you taught your daughter. But carnal hypergamy, Letitia, is exploitative. It takes men to the umpteenth power. And it always seeks and more and more and more, almost like that plant called Seymour when he said, feed me. So I would say that by and large, it's more men that are applicable for the office of marriage and relationship than there are women. Because the so-called nice guys, and I know there's some men that look past nice women as well, but the so-called nice guys, they got to keep going through the same foolishness over and over and over again, in my opinion.
I respectfully disagree.
That's fair. That's fair.
I spoke to these so-called invisible men, right? I speak to these so-called invisible men all the time because I'm always curious to what men are thinking and why they're believing or thinking the way they're thinking, right? And it never fails. They say there are no women who are feminine, there are no women who are fit, there are no women who are attractive. And I'm like, that's just not true. And it's usually they want a woman, they want the women like the women in the video. Those are some very beautiful women, right? Well, very beautiful women come spoiled and entitled. They have, I'm not saying all of them are like this, but when you add beauty and men have validated their beauty all of their lives, what makes you think that they're going to become less self-centered, less self-focused, and basically put what they want to decide for the betterment of you, or to put you first, or think or be more considerate towards you, when no, it's been all about them all their lives, right? So why not go for the woman with the good character and a good heart? And it's always, I'm not attracted to that woman. So you mean to tell me I have to settle for a woman I'm not attracted to? Well, you're essentially wanting women to settle for men that they're not attracted to, because unfortunately, and this is a sad truth, that majority of the men that's invisible, 33%. So what, you have a good job and make 75,000, but you're not attractive to most women, and modern women don't think that you can look at you and hear, and they're what's going through their mind is you're probably subconsciously you're not good in bed. So they would be feeling as if they're settling. So now you're saying to them that you're saying, I don't want to settle for what's here in America. Okay, that's fine. But then don't turn around and tell them that they need to settle for what they don't want. So just because you have a good job, you may seem like you're educated, you may be making $75,000, but they're not attracted to you. And that's the biggest problem with modern people. I would say millennials, I find that to be the worst group, that they're trying to have it all. And attraction is the biggest issue amongst millennial men and millennial women. Physical attraction, physical and sexual attraction.
I think the research backs up the level of, I'm not saying that men don't have a level of entitlement as well, but I still would say by and large, I think, I'm not saying there are not some good young women out here that are hidden and invisible. I do agree with you on that. There's a percentage, but I don't think the percentage is nowhere near 50%. I don't think it's nowhere over 50%. That's my own guesstimation. I'm telling, I saw you laughing, man. What were you laughing about? But before you answer that, shout out to my man, Cody Marshall. Cody Marshall said they are trying to pass laws and statutes to keep making men go do red tape to get their passports. I agree with that. But tell us how you smoke. Smoking.
If so, I was laughing when you were talking about the women being fit. It was like 80% of black women are overweight. I mean, even if you say it's 70, it's more than 50%. That's a big number. But one of the major differences that a lot of men are probably finding when they go overseas is that women have healthier attitudes towards men, and they have healthier attitudes towards sex. This is a problem in the United States across races. The United States was founded on this Puritan culture, and we never got rid of it. So there's a lot more shame and overcompensation for sex. And then there are attitudes towards men. This is probably the US and maybe some European countries are the only places where men are looked down on as though they have no value for society. And you go into Latin America, women understand that the men are the military. They do all the hard grunt work that women never want to do. But men are looked down as though, and I've heard literally over the years, heard women say, we don't need men because they bring no value to society. And if you keep plugging that, if a girl is born and hearing that from the day she's born that you don't need a man, and men are oppressing you, and subjugating you when he says hi when you're walking down the street, they're going to have pretty nasty attitudes towards men and be able to justify it in their minds. And I think this is one of the bigger problems that men are dealing with. And it doesn't matter if the woman is a 10 on a scale of 1, like an actual 10, or she's a 3. The attitude towards men is unhealthy and it's unproductive, and it's difficult to build any kind of civilization where men and women are like that.
Letitia, let me ask you a question. Who's more entitled in your opinion? The men are more entitled or the women?
For me, it's 50-50.
You think it's 50-50?
A 50-50 split.
Okay. Go ahead.
Reasons. So men feel they're entitled to beautiful women. They do feel they're entitled to the women that they want.
Okay.
And then women feel that they're entitled to the men that they want. And I just see that it's 50-50. Women want the men with the looks and the resources, and men want beauty. They want women that they find to be attractive, and that would be conventionally attractive. Society would say that they're attractive. I'm not saying they all want 8, 9s, or 10s, but you want the woman that you find conventionally attractive.
Sexually attractive. Men want to be with the woman they find. They want to have sex with.
Yes. So, and that's not a large population. That's not a huge population.
I don't think 50%, and that's just my own opinion. I don't think 50% of men feel like they're entitled to the top of the women. I think they understand they got to work for it. But I am being subjective. I could be wrong. But I don't think the 50.
If they have to work for it, then why is it that the average income is less than 50,000? Because why? And then why is such pushback? Why was there such pushback with Kevin Samuels when he said the men should be working hard and you need to, have a plan? Don't just go off your hobbies, your dreams. You need to have a plan. You need to work 60 plus hours. You need to be making this amount of money. And yet he got so much pushback for that.
But once again, Kevin Samuels didn't speak to the masses. Kevin Samuels was not the cornucopia of intellectualism. He has some excellent points. But on the flip side, there are men that are making a certain amount of money. There are men that are working hard, and they're still saying it's not enough. Chris Strongheart, you're going to school to be an engineer. What's your take on men are not working hard enough, and they just expect women to fall into their lap? Because I don't think that's the case. I think women their egos have become so inflated now in modern times that no matter what a man do, it's never enough. But here's the kicker. The fair exchange for women in the past was you had to be a virgin, no kids, and you had to be wife ready. So these women that got, and because this is where I would disagree with Kevin with. If Kevin's saying, you got to work, but then I would say, Kevin, well, what in the hell are these men getting? Because my dad got a virgin, my dad got a woman that was wife ready, my mom had no kids. So why would a man pay a full price for something that's highly used or used at all? That makes no sense to me. I'm not paying full price for something that's used. I'll pay a percentage, but I'm not going to pay full price. We're going to prorate it. But go ahead, Chris, what's your take on that, brother?
All right, so to take it from the top, first off, nobody was disagreeing with Kevin that men should be working hard to be their best selves, to stay on their purpose and stuff. Most men were not disagreeing with that. When you say men, you have to understand that we're talking about levels and classes of men, because one of the worst things we hate to do within the so-called Black community is divide people by classes, and we need to realize that we do have classes. Okay, so people have different mindsets. Now, first off, as far as what you should be making, now this is the thing about that. The thing, and this is how we get into cultural differences. The reason that Kev was saying what he's saying, because he was saying that if you are expecting to deal with today's modern woman, this is the bar, is what he was addressing. He was saying that if you want to deal with these women, because now we have enough data to look at to say about 90% of the women calling into this show were all saying they want a man that meets these metrics. Okay. Right. Now then, to address men and say, what's wrong with working hard? The counterpoint to that is what is the reward for a man who's going to go out here, break his back, bend over backwards for you, stack up all this money just to say he got the average American Black woman who treats him like trash anyway, because it doesn't even matter what level you're at. We see the same problems throughout whatever strata you want to say within Black men, whether he's a millionaire, billionaire, or he makes only six figures. It don't matter. That's why we're trying to say that. That's why Kevin was doing that. See, that was the sub point of what Kev was saying, was that it don't matter. He was drawing the line to say, okay, so men need to make this. This is what men need to do, and y'all gonna do what for that man? What is his reward? And he's gonna get this, this, and this for all his hard work. He's gonna get what exactly? Because the thing is just that so many of these women treat men the same at any level. All it is the same type of treatment, regardless of where you are. It's just that it's the treatment at that level. When we look at it from overseas, the way we can tell that this is different, because you can have Jose can cross the border with his wife, and they're basically trying to make it coming out the mud, crossing over into Texas, and she will stay right by his side selling fruits on the side of the road somewhere in California and not look at him as a low value man and, oh, he don't make enough. This is why we can address the fact that this is a cultural problem. It's not a money issue. And to tell men that, oh, y'all need to make more and we'll act different, that's the biggest load of crap ever. That is not. I agree with that. I agree with that.
It's not it. It's a hard issue, man. You can make all the money you want to, man. But there, maybe Letitia comply, but you can make all the money you want, and it's. I've seen times where men have done everything. They work hard. They work those extra hours. They bust their asses. They put it. I got a client right now. He said put his wife in a nice house. She wanted a better house. It goes back to that solipsistic nature. It goes back to the lack of development that you talked about earlier, Letitia. And it goes back to a point where they were arrested in their development where enough is not enough. So men are saying, I'm just going to check out because my good is never good enough. They're saying that there are chicks that are big as whales and got kids by other men. And I tell a damn man, he got to make $125,000 a year. Okay. But she's big as a whale, got kids by other men, potentially ran through too. But he got to make $125,000 damn. That makes no sense.
So I hear you, and I hear what you guys are saying, but you guys are forgetting that women have to get fit, feminine, and friendly for who? Because majority of for who exactly? If they're saying I want a 6-figure earner, majority of black men don't make 6 figures, right? Or more than that. So who are they getting fit, feminine, and friendly for and submitting to? They have to do all of that work for a small percentage of men. So you guys are saying, well, we have to do all of this work for a small percentage of women.
But women in other countries, Letitia, they are what men are talking about. And these guys are less than what these women here in America are actually demanding. See, once again, relationship inflation has told the woman in the West that she's better than what she really is. She really is. But you got Jose that's an average migrant farmer, and his wife will respect him, honor him, and obey him. And he don't make nowhere damn near the amount of money that women expect men here in America to make. And they're doing that because that's how they were raised. They were conditioned to be wives. And most women in the West, they're not wives. They're not even wife material because they haven't been trained to be wives. I will applaud you for teaching your daughter how to be a wife, but your daughter is a microcosm. She's a very minute part of the broader conversation. Kudos to you for teaching your daughter how. Now, a young woman like your daughter, yeah, I think most men will go to war for a daughter like yours. Your daughter, I pay all the bills for a daughter like your daughter.
Well, here's
go ahead.
So these women they're women like my daughter are the minority. Well, who's teaching black men how to be husbands? If majority of black men are coming from single parent households, single mother households, who is teaching them to be a husband? Because wanting to be a husband is not enough, as we can see with women, just wanting to be a wife is not.
I agree with you, Tish, in part. That is in part true. You're right. They don't teach them how to be husbands, but they also don't teach them how to be men and stand in power as well. They teach them more or less to aggrandize the ego and the feelings of a woman instead of teaching them to stand on principle. Like you said, put your foot on their damn necks when they get out of line. So I agree with you. They don't teach them how to be husbands. There are some sorry, trifling, dusty Negroes that don't want to work. They want to live off women. I don't mind talking about them, Letitia. And when they get mad at you, Tish, or Ted, or me when we call them out, Letitia and Ted, this is what they'll say because they're the spawns of single mothers.
Yeah, we chain on them. Balls on my mom. They be bringing balls. Kill some of my mom. Bro, they back me like. That's on my monkey. That's on my monkey. That's on my monkey.
Yeah, we're raising men like Day, Raekwon, Shermike, and Man. But see, I don't endorse those types of men. I think these types of men are the pariahs to the blue-collar brothers, the white-collar brothers that are not exploitative, and the average Joe that just want a decent woman. But see, in other countries, Enrique, Hernandez, Pedro, they can get a fine woman, but he can be a migrant farmer. But she believes in taking care of her figure. She believes in cooking for her man. She believes in working out. She believes in holding her man down. Because the system there does not teach them that they are better. And also the beauty density is so strong, they ain't got no other choice. Because you got men in those countries like Colombia, they could be in their 50s and 60s, and they'll get a younger woman. The women get women in those countries fight so hard for their men because they know that anytime they can lose their position. They got relationship anxiety because they know at any time they can lose their man. But see, women here, they don't have no fear. They don't have no fear of losing a man because these simps raised by single moms, they'll just take them. They'll take, a chick that got multiple kids by multiple men, overweight. They just take them. And because men here got low standards. So I do concur with you. You got one variant that says men are not adequately, there's a percentage of men that don't want to work, don't want to provide, and they want to live off women. I agree with you 1,000%. But I don't believe that by and large, the 50% of men in America, especially brothers, are those type of men. I believe it's a small population, or I would say up to 20%. But I don't think it exceeds 50%. What's your take on that, Ted?
It takes
Go ahead, Tish. Go ahead.
It takes more than having a job to be a husband. So when I say they're not...
I agree with that. I agree with that.
They they don't have, even if they don't have they don't like, if I ask a man, what does it mean to be a husband, what did you learn about being a husband, they always go to, well, I'm going to provide and protect. It takes more than that to be in a relationship. You have to be capable of building intimacy, creating intimacy,
right.
Attaching to her, being emotionally available. And what I'm seeing is that majority of men, over 51% of men, suffer from some type of insecure attachment style. I spend hundreds of hours, I'm probably at over 300 hours in talking to men. And they're not all the little pookies and the ravers that y'all think they are.
I agree with that. I agree with you on that. I agree.
I'm sitting here and I'm talking to men who have good, decent jobs. They're educated. Some of them, a lot of them are educated, have college degrees. And they are suffering from an insecure attachment style. They're not emotionally available. They don't want to do the work that's necessary to actually be in a relationship with a woman. So,
what does that mean?
That means that you have to actually be in tune. You have to be there. You have to show up. You can't just get frustrated because she's asking for your time. You can't get frustrated because she's trying to figure out if you really want to be with her or be in love with her. That means you're gonna have to spend time with her. You're gonna have to talk to her. You're gonna have to communicate with her. So you're gonna have to be there physically and emotionally. And what I'm finding is that because of insecure attachment styles, that over 50% of men aren't capable of that. So no, that doesn't make you a good husband. That wouldn't make you the best of a husband. So if that's 50% of the men, over 50% of the men, then who are these women getting fit, feminine, and friendly and submissive for?
Okay, I just want to make a quick point. Something that you said earlier, Tisha. I just want to say real fast, like, majority of men are not looking for what we would consider to be dimes or Instagram models off the rip. I mean, you made a comment about we're looking for a certain type of women, and it's more so based on them looking like next to a model. No, that's not the case. We honestly, most men, when it comes down to women that we would consider to be more of a wife type, we'd say she's going to be more on the average level of things. She's going to be more so not all glammed up. We brothers even talk about, don't go after the ones that are trying to be Little Miss Instagram model, Little Miss social media, with the, raptor claws and the BBLs and stuff like this. Brothers will tell each other those are not the type of women that you need to be looking at for a marriage type or a long-term relationship situation. Brothers are looking for the basic things. We're looking for a woman who is going to be of course fit, and we do want feminine, and we do want friendly, but we also want agreeableness. You know what I'm saying? Be by my side, support how I'm moving. Let me train you, because you made a comment earlier that says something about men are not, basically you made a point to say that men are not leading or stuff like this. And I'm just like, how exactly do you expect men to within the confines of the law lead? We can't force you to be into anything you don't want to be into. We're not going to be able to sit here. We can't physically deal with you. Okay. It's not legal for us to do so. Yes, you did make a point to say that, yeah, men should walk away if the situation is not viable for what they're trying to do. Of course. But men over here say that. To speak to Ted's point, men are not going overseas, not equipped with understanding female nature, hypergamy, not understanding like that. Yes, the same games can be played over here in the States. And yes, if you are a simp or a blue pill dude over here in the States, you will fall prey to the same problems over there in those other countries. That's true. Guess what? Most brothers who travel, we do not teach or preach that the random average brother, it should just go over there willy-nilly without having any mindset on how to move. We tell brothers how to move properly when they're going overseas. We're not just having the average brother, because guess what? The average brother can't travel. Average brother doesn't have a passport. Average brother can't afford to go overseas. So there's already barriers in between. So those type of guys are not even moving like that anyway. Okay. So that's another thing. And then also what was brought up was talking about, so what's going to happen here in the community if so many brothers move out? First off, not that many brothers are actually traveling. It's so funny how passport bros have made the biggest ripple in the pond, and it's the smallest percentage of black men which are 14% are black people being 14% of the American population, and like this big of that percent are brothers who are talking about moving in and traveling, and we are making like the biggest waves and we're making the most noise. It's funny because we're showing that we're off the plantation. We're not here to debate with you and fight with you. We'll say what it is. Some brothers will still try to reconcile a few things. Most are just like, I ain't even worried about it. But the thing is, it's just it's not up for debate anymore. Okay. A lot of brothers are not looking for what we say. We're not looking for you to come back to the table. You know what I mean? At this point, a lot of brothers are just like, fine, do what you do, because we don't have anything. We don't have any metrics, culture, religion, laws to put upon you to say, okay, I do all these things. You're my wife. But if you get out of pocket, what am I supposed to do to be able to say, you know what? I'm going to punish her. What else can you do except walk away? But then again, we have what? We have single mothers. So it just is the same cycle. You say walk away. A lot of brothers did in the last 30, 40, 50 years. That's what they did. So my thing is just like, there is no rhyme or reason to say, that, brothers haven't tried, haven't talked, haven't, sat around and tried to sing to their ladies, and they still screwed them over. At the end of the day, they still did not get the just rewards of, her divine loyalty, non-promiscuous behavior. They still were taking girl trips, going to Jamaica and doing all these different things. So if you was going to try to get with somebody like me, but you see me as a stand-up guy, but if I'm going to say, okay, so you'll say the type of brothers who are equipped and ready to be in relationships. Okay, so I'll give you the metrics of a brother who's ready to be in a relationship. Get off Instagram, get off social media, no girls trips, get out the club. I gave you those 4 metrics right there. For now let that be a brother who's ready to be in a relationship with the average American female. And you really think that she's gonna go with that? See, those are the type of metrics. Those are the type of things that brothers who already would say, but most women would disagree.
And Kevin talked about that. He was saying that women get mad about men being emotionally available and cheating. But a lot of women, Tish, I would say, are emotionally unavailable to some degree because they use the attention of other men in social media to more or less fixate their entitlement and narcissism when they can't get what they want from that man. Men now have a hard time competing with 30 men in her damn DMs. Like Kevin said one time, he talked about women being addicted to social media. Or those same said women say he's cheating. Those same said women saying, he won't, pay me no attention. And I do agree with you in part, Letitia, about a man showing some level of emotional availability. And I don't know what the percentage is about those that might have an attachment issue. But could we argue that some of it is based on the trauma and the disrespect and the BS of some of the women that they dealt with? Ted, what's your take on the conversation? And Letitia makes some good points. But what's your take on it?
There's a paradox happening here. Earlier, Letitia said men don't listen. So this is the paradox. Black men, if you look around the world, black men in Africa, the US, the Caribbean, black men are the most liberal men on the planet. They are more accepting, more willing, they're more bending, and what makes it worse, and this is part of the paradox, black men will almost sacrifice their own manhood just so they are not denied sex. So black men are more willing to be liberal and jump through hoops so that they can have access to sex. So what do black men hear? You need to get in touch with your feminine side. You need to earn more money. There were a bunch of things that black women demanded black men do. You need to provide and protect. So when black women say provide and protect, they never talk about what they want in a man who's able to provide and protect. They speak as though they want an ATM machine and a guard dog. And so black men have given that. So the paradox is black men actually have been so liberal and they got into their feminine side. They'd stopped putting their foot on a woman's neck because at one time they did. So they stopped doing that. They start doing housework. They started getting involved in ways with the children that they hadn't before. And in return, Black women resented them because now you're in touch with your feminine side. You're more emotional. You're just like a woman. I feel like I'm with a woman. And some you do. Even studies show that men who do more housework does not increase the happiness for the woman, for the wife. In fact, her happiness diminishes. So the more a man acquiesces, the more a woman resents him because he's not being a man and standing up. And so this is what I was saying, when guys go abroad, if you don't understand that men in other countries do stand up for the most part with their women. And when you go abroad and you bring the same liberal mindset, you're going to end up in the same situation. So the paradox, women wanted men to listen. They did. And women gave men advice. They responded. And now women resent that advice. It's almost like they gave them advice that they really didn't want. And the men followed it, unfortunately. And now we're at this impasse because men did listen and women didn't want what they actually asked for. When you say provide and protect, you need to be first talking about what kind of man is able to provide properly. And what the hell do women need protection from anyway? I aside from themselves. But I'll stop there.
Yeah, I agree with you, Letitia. I wish we had more women that at least had a modicum, or at least tried to think like you and hear where you're coming from. But sadly, it goes on deaf ears. So kudos to you. I would say you're a lot more pragmatic than most. I don't agree 100% on what you're saying, but I do agree with some of your talking points. As that there appear to be a conflagration of some men talking points, but also modern womanism to some degree. One of the things I asked Ted, Chris made some good points as a young man, but it appears things are not getting any better. And Letitia talked about the imprint, and a lot of these chicks go to college. They go to, NCCU, my alma mater, that knocked off Deion Sanders, beat Jackson State. And that imprint is strong, man. Hold tight, I want to show you guys something real quick. Your girl might be imprinted. If she messed with one.
She didn't say move. She said woo.
Why is she looking at me like that? I'm like that because I'm a flash.
Bruh. But many of you men, when you hear your woman say move, she's really saying woo. She's saying woo. And Rue is the signature sign of the Omegas. And she's saying Rue because she remembered the time that Chorenzo blew her mind. And see, people don't understand that when the Omegas said got them spellbound, man. They have Bristophilia, and them Omegas got them spellbound. They spellbound, man. They like the Gap Band when they said excited. Girl, you knocked me out. they got them spellbound. But Chris, what was your greatest issue with Derrick Jaxn? And guys, I dropped a link. If some of you guys want to come and ask Letitia a question, come respectful because she's been very respectful, or Ted or Chris, feel free to pop in and ask Letitia a question.
Seven. I want to say something.
Go ahead, man.
That related to what you just showed. I think another problem for men, especially in the U.S., is that we underestimate female sexuality. We're told that men want sex more, and sex is not that important to women. However, if you think about why women choose the bad boy, she's looking for some guy who's going to not be afraid to violate boundaries. And too many men have not given women what they really desire sexually. And so there's a gap. And why I can say that, because I've been that side dude, that other guy with the married woman or the woman living with. So, I mean, I've just seen too many times. And I think if men could acknowledge that women are very sexual creatures, and whether you need to go run, ride a bike, go to the gym, part of the problems would start to dissipate right there. Now, I'll just shut up there.
Well, I don't know what do you mean by that? That's vague.
Well, you just, what do you put out a video saying if your woman's been with a Mega Sci Fi? So in that video you showed, so it's not that a guy needs to be built like that, but you need to prepare yourself, just like you need to be prepared to go in the workforce and make a certain amount of money, right? The bigger problems you solve, the more money you're going to make. That's theoretically what they say. So if you want to make the big money, you need to be prepared and trained and developed, have some certain skills, and be able to solve bigger problems. So you also need to be able to deal with the holistic part of your relationship with a woman, and sex is a major part. What it's like in the top 5 reasons for divorce. So, and look, there are a lot of women who think just having a vagina is good enough for sex, and that's a problem by itself. But if men are not physically prepared, you don't have to have a 18-inch penis. You just need to be able to acknowledge that women are very desirous of sex, and society has told them it's wrong to show that side of yourself. Right. So if you can acknowledge that and deal with the woman as a sexual being, and be prepared, just as prepared to satisfy her sexually as you are prepared to perform well in the workplace.
And it's not just that. Like,
go ahead, Tish. Go ahead.
How a woman judges you about being a good bed partner starts way before you even start having sex. She's judging you by the way you look, the way you talk, the way you stand, the way you walk, and how you engage with her. Well, I found that women like bold, audacious men sexually. They're like bold, audacious men. Although they will complain and tell you, I don't like that type of man, I don't want to deal with, and they will fight back, they will fight against such a man. But you know what? Those are the ones after they tell you you're horrible, you're awful, and try to play victim to your face, but they're gonna be in your back channels trying to get your number. Why? Because she's determined that you are the type of guy that is going to not have to ask her, are you okay? Is this okay? Can I do that? Women want men to be bold in the bedroom.
Right, I agree with that.
If you, and what she's checking to see, and whether it's consciously or subconscious, is that a lot of men who do a lot of complaining, asking, wanting permission, who kowtow to them a lot, even though they claim to want that, those men aren't going to give them a good time in the bedroom. So again, it's the way you look. It's the way, not necessarily have to be, an Adonis. You don't have to be an Adonis, but you need to have an air of confidence around you. You need to, and then the way you talk, and then the way you stand, and the way you walk. There's a science behind the way a man walks that will cause a woman to, clutch her, do one of these, like, oh my gosh, or fan herself just by the way he walks. And if you're walking like, like you got to stick up your butt, or you don't have, a way that a man walks and dances, like, okay, so I don't know if men realize this. A man who can dance is one that a woman is going to have high sexual attraction to, because that shows that he has rhythm in the bedroom. A man who has a very voracious physical appetite when it comes to eating, meaning you're not eating like a bird, you're not being nitpicky, you're just being a man when you eat, that shows that he has a voracious appetite in the bedroom. When a man who stands tall, stands on what he says, and won't let her get away with anything, that's a man who is going to show he's got a healthy appetite in the bedroom. He can lead in the bedroom. Right. So, and that's what women want. So.
But here's the paradox: women don't marry those men. They're afraid of those. They'll have sex with them, but they're afraid to marry those men because they know it's going to be competition from other women. There's the paradox. Most women do not want to marry those guys. They will cheat with them. They will have one-night stands or flings, but they do not want long-term relationships with those men.
I would say that's true of Gen X, but millennial women, no, they definitely want those men. They want it. That's why they're struggling. It's just that those men don't want to marry those women. They don't want to marry them. They don't have those wife traits that they're looking for. They make great bed partners. So those women, millennial women, want those men. I hear it all the time. I want him. I want to be in a relationship. I want to be married to that man. But that man doesn't want to marry her.
That's because she doesn't qualify as a wife, and she doesn't know that. And that's the point about Derrick Jaxn. He didn't tell women that.
Good point. Good point. Hold tight, Chris. Hold tight, Chris. I'm Mr. Chop. Shout out to my man, Mr. Charles, for that too. He said this guy Ted knows too much good information. Shout out to Ted. But go ahead, Chris. Go ahead and say what you say, Dad. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the point. I agree with the point that brothers should know. You should definitely know what you're doing in the bedroom. You should know how to put it down, do your thing. But I'm not gonna sit here and appease to a female's promiscuity.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to sit here and let that be a grading metric as to say, oh, I'm so horrible because she's so sexually charged up that she decided to leave me. Now, I'm not going to grade her. I'm not going to let that slide and be like, oh, well, maybe if my sex game was better, you know what I'm saying, as compared to a brother who is in the image of a Derrick Jaxn, then, oh, maybe she wouldn't have left me. No, I'm not going for that. You know what I'm saying? I do what I do, but my sex game is one part of the metric that I'm building for a stable relationship. Because if that's the metric, then we're just appeasing the thoughts. Because it's, oh, okay, whoever has the biggest Johnson win, whoever has the best stroke game wins. That we're not going to appease to whole nature. We're already up under a culture that is promoting 304s and strippers. So no, I mean, yeah, as a brother, you do want to do your thing. You do want to be able to be dominant in the bedroom, of course. But to put that as a metric to say, oh, well, make sure you tight on that because she'll leave. No, if she's a thought, she's going to be a thought. Right, and if you're one dude, if you're one guy and if she is so highly thinking of your sex game as a metric to where she will either leave or stay, guess what? She is for the streets because all she's going to do is just rack up bodies of guys and whoever has the best Johnson wins. That is not the type of female who is looking for a relationship. And a woman who is thinking that way is the type of female, which are the majority of them who are out here, who are just out here just saying, oh, I can be single, independent, don't need no man. Because like we just said, they're not looking to be wives. A wife would not be thinking that way. But like you just said, those women that we discussed, they're not looking to be wives. So what is it? Are we looking for thoughts or are we looking for wives? Are we going to tell women to be more like thoughts? Or are we going to tell women to be more like women who are looking to be married? See, because it's like, yeah, you want to be equipped to be able to handle a thought. But at a certain point, you should also know your metrics for a female that you are looking for a long-term relationship with and to be married to. Therefore, if a female steps to you, you find her sexually attractive and you say, you know what, this girl is cool. But by how she moves, you're seeing that she's not really trying to be on that relationship tip. You can say, fine, okay, might have some fun with this one. Then you meet another one and you just like, oh, okay. Oh, she's really on that relationship. Oh, okay. And then you vet her. You see how she moves. And then you should be equipped as a man. I will say this, as a man, you should be equipped to understand how to deal with the woman who is looking to be in a relationship. Now then, this is why I tell brothers who travel, your heart needs to be in the right place before you get out there. You need to understand what part of your life are you in. Are you looking to be out here just having fun? Or are you looking to be out here trying to build something? Because if you do, you need to be moving a little bit differently or have it set in your heart that you are going to deal with her a certain way. Meaning, if she comes to you and says, I'm looking for a relationship and she's attractive, you will not lie, Derrick Jaxn, in order to get in her box or to use her. You will tell her, no, none of that right now. I'm good. I'm cool. I ain't looking for no relationship right now. You gotta be content with yourself in order to understand what you're looking for in a female and then move accordingly based off where you are. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, that's why I disagree with that metric to say that, we should, that should be something that we should be judged against us as men. I mean, I do understand what you're saying. I'm not openly trying to take shots at you. I understand what you're saying, but I'm speaking to the deeper psychology of that is that, you're essentially training the female to believe that the sex metric is the highest because she's such a sexual deviant that if she can't get the highest metric of sex, then she should break up with that man.
Right.
So that's a very, very tightrope walk.
If you meet a woman who's a virgin, be prepared to put value on her sex drive because it's going to be there. That's what I'm saying. If she's a virgin or she's been with one guy, what I'm saying is men need to acknowledge that women are much more sexual than we've been told. And you meet her as a virgin. That's what I'm talking. I'm not talking about the promiscuous women. Listen, asking me to talk about the thoughts is like asking me to talk about the woman who's a crack whore. Neither one of those show up on my radar. So and I'm not trying to put in categories like good girls and bad girls. I'm saying women in general. If you get a woman who's a virgin, you are going to find out that you opened up Pandora's box and she's going to want sex because she didn't have it before and she enjoys it. You need to be prepared to be able to handle your wife's sexual needs in the face of you're going to go out and work 60 or 80 hours, but you cannot ignore the fact that women are much more sexual. When you give them permission to be free, they are much more sexual than society has told us.
Well, and that also can lead to emasculation, the book that I'm talking about. Don't know if you guys have purchased the book, but go check out Edward Field's book, Emasculated, because some of you may think that your sex game is good. If you've been emasculated or told that you weren't adequate, you might want to read this book.
Have you been distressed or perplexed? Emasculated, a book written by Edward Fields IV. Everything that needs to be known about men in modern time. Listen, men are not complex. They are misunderstood and unappreciated. Learn what men really feel, think, and desire. Also observe their struggle for acceptance, love, and belonging. A must read for every man in this classic book by Edward Fields IV, Emasculated. Go get your copy now.
Guys, I want y'all to go get a copy of that book. Edward is a licensed therapist. We're going to be doing a show at some point. He might pop in on tomorrow with another fellow therapist of mine. And we're going to break down if Derrick Jaxn is a narcissist. Letitia, I'm going to ask you a question, sweetie. If most women were chased or were raised to be chased like your baby, do you think they could be satiated better? Ted is correct. They still might have a sex drive. But Ted, before you answer, Letitia, but Ted, some will say the women that are virgins are just prudes. I don't think that's necessarily true. Some might, a percentage might be prudes. But I believe there's a lot of flame down there, pun intended, no pun intended. But if they were more or less conditioned to be like your daughter, do you think it would be more apt to stay in relationships and to be pleased, Letitia, in your opinion?
In this day and age, no. And the reason it has more to do with the sexual liberation movement. Because again, Ted was right. Virgins still want to have a great sex life, and a lot of those women were virgins when they got married, and as the children got older, they wanted out because they realized their sex lives sucked with their husband. So
that's true.
I talk to my daughter a lot. My daughter's still a virgin, and I talk to her a lot about sex. She has a very healthy outlook on sex, right? But she made the decision that she was going to save it for marriage. But she understands that she's a woman and sex is important to her. Is it the metric to where she will choose a man or not choose a man? No, it wasn't the metric, but she does understand that sex is important. That was conversations she had with her fiance, making sure that they would be sexually, although both of them are virgins, making sure that they would be sexually compatible. So it's not talking. So I want men to get out of this thought process that just the 304s and the thoughts like sex. Wives like sex. They want to have good sex. Now,
right.
Too many women have put sex on the burner, put put sex on the burner for the sake of their families. And then what did they end up telling their daughters or their nieces and their granddaughters? That you need to go out there and experience yourself, so that when you do get married, you won't have this issue of now not having experienced good sex, going through a marriage and never having an orgasm, right? I don't agree with the messaging necessarily, but I understand what modern women are saying and why they're putting such a high price on sex, because it is very important. It's important, and I want y'all to know it's important to wives. It's important to traditional women. Now, do we look for men specifically for sex? Are we trying to have it all? No, but it is important, and so it's important for men to have it in their heads that you're going to be in tune with her sexually, and think about her and consider her in the bedroom, and make sure that she is experiencing having a good time, just like you're going to have a good time.
No, I agree with that in part. I think sex is a very important component, but remember that most women don't experience orgasm through penile penetration. There are ways to get women orgasm besides that. If women expect the orgasm that way, well,
that's a U.S. problem, and that goes back to their attitude towards men and sex. When you go into other countries, you'll find that you're less likely to find women having problems through penetration to climax.
Okay. Talk about that. Go ahead.
So I'll just talk about one country. I lived in Mexico, and it wasn't just me. I met other guys from the U.S. who lived in Mexico for a time or traveled, and in 5 minutes, her first climax. You can set a watch to it. 10 minutes is twice. 15 minutes. After 20 minutes, she's tapped out. And my assumption is because she's accustomed to 15 minutes, and after 20 minutes, she's done. There are women from other countries who will climax as soon as you fully penetrate them. I mean, there is a spectrum. Mexico, Middle East, these women understand their G-spot. You don't have to explain it to them. They're not paranoid about what's happening with their body. So squirting is a natural part. So they seem to have they've been more educated about their sexual body and the level of freedom they're allowed to have. In Mexico, what seems to be is the mothers gives their daughters permission to be sexually free, not promiscuous, but it's a message more like, if you're with a man you love, you can be a puta en la calle with him, like a whore in the streets with the man you love, but don't be a whore in the streets. Just be free and open and allow yourself to be sexual, and kind of don't deny him sex. So that's built into their mindset as teenagers or preteens. They already understand this. And even in the US, you get some people may have a problem. You look in the Caucasian community where mothers will, like 12 years old, teach their daughters, here's how you avoid teen pregnancy. You learn to have great oral sex. I'll teach you how to do it, and you swallow. And so there are cultures where they are more able. Girls are more able to have open and free conversations with their mothers, and that translates to a healthier sexual engagement with a man, is what happens. And you can be a thought and not like sex, and you can be horrible in bed. And a lot of guys don't understand that.
To speak on that real quick, I would say in terms of a virgin, because we brought up virgins, I don't think most guys are looking for virgins or expecting to come across virgins. So to say that, she's going to want to be so sexually liberated, what men are marrying virgins in today's culture and climate here in the States? That's not even quantifiable. And then on even to go on to that point, the thing is just like, okay, so for these women, let's just say that she grew up in Saudi Arabia. Let's just say that she grew up over there in the Middle East and she got married as a virgin bride. And okay, she was with this man, she was with her husband and all these other things. And okay, maybe she did want to experiment and try all these different things. But she would not put that on top of, let me risk it all, my family, to try to ensue a divorce and then run out here in the streets and try all these different sexual experiences. That's not something that she would be taught to do. Because what now, once again, we're speaking to a culture problem, because these women here are taught by their aunties, mamas, sisters, and sometimes even their grandmamas that, if that man ain't doing right by this and that, you need to leave him, and girl, you do better because you deserve the world. He's going to accept you as you are. You don't need to work on yourself. You don't need to do anything. None of that. Just risk it all. Screw your family, take the kids, and leave that man where he's at because he didn't meet your standards. Again, we keep coming back to this circle of, we have a cultural problem here in America. That's the thing. This is why I advocate for brothers to say, if you don't like the water over here, it's always colder somewhere else. You don't have to deal with this nonsense. That's why I don't believe in having these long, drawn out debate with women and all these other things. We'll say what it is up top. If a woman's going to deal with me, I'm going to say what it is up top. I'm going to lay it out. I'm going to say, hey, this is how I'm moving. This is what I'm into. This is what I got going on. If she wants to be a part of that or not, she can decide if she wants to be a part of my team. But we do not force. We do not control. I'm not going to make her do anything. I'm going to say, I'm going to give her options. I'm going to say, I do not accept a female who is about all these girls' trips. I do not accept a female who is about being Little Miss Instagram model. See, there's a difference. Instead of trying to say, oh, men, y'all are controlling, y'all are forcing. No. Men who know better ain't forcing you to do a damn thing. They're going to say like this because men who know better and they have established themselves generally have options. And they'll say, okay, would you like to apply? How are you moving? Are you a viable candidate? Can Strong Art LLC bring you in as a good business partner? So these are the type of things that men who know better are moving. Like, we can speak to a certain subgroup of brothers who don't get it or don't understand. Okay, these cats are real. They're young. They don't know any better. These cats, because there's different types of talking points that get brought up that are speaking to different people. All right, I'm not going to expect to even find a virgin. Like, that's not even. I wouldn't even expect that because I know we don't live in that type of culture or community. Hell, that you probably wouldn't even find that in the Caribbean. You probably have to go somewhere way off into the Middle East, like I said before, to really think you're about to have to deal with someone who is a virgin and worry about the fallout of how a virgin is going to react to her first time having sex. And then you already are married to her. Those metrics are so out of this world. Percentage is so small that is not about to happen anytime soon to anybody anywhere. No, that's such a misnomer.
Virgins exist in the U.S. without a question, without any shadow of a doubt. There are virgins in the U.S.
Where?
So
hold tight, guys. Hold tight. I'm gonna add to it. Then I'm gonna tear up. But here's the problem, though, Chris. You're right. I think that's a generation gap issue. That more or less tells you the sign of the times that men have lowered their damn standards to the point that they can't even expect something pure, but they expect it to provide like a traditional man. That's a problem. Now, I understand where you're coming from, Chris, because you're just looking at it from a pragmatic point of view. But the point is, that's how bad the culture has gotten, that men are still expected to adhere to all the traditional norms, but the women aren't. That should never happen. We have conditioned ourselves. The millennials have conditioned themselves to think that's okay. But when Ted and I was growing up, you had more that were like Letitia's daughter than now. Go ahead, Ted.
And as far as the Middle Eastern woman, she would cheat on her husband. If you think they don't cheat in the Middle East, then you're not. They're still women. So when I said virgin, what I wanted you to understand is, if she's a virgin, she's been with one guy, or she's been with 2,000 guys. The woman who's been with tens or dozens of men probably doesn't like sex and probably doesn't enjoy it. And you're probably going to be in a sexless marriage with that. There's a higher chance of being in a sexless marriage with that woman than the woman with one or two guys. But a lot of women run the streets because they don't like sex, and it's a way to be able to control and manipulate men. They use sex as a weapon. But
that's not our fault.
So when I said a virgin, I'm saying if you marry a virgin, be prepared to handle your sexual life. It doesn't matter if she's a virgin or been with one person. And I'm saying a lot of guys underestimate the value of sex to women, and it's not about jumping through hoops, because there are a lot of women who are not good sexually and they think they are, and that's a problem too. And I said that already, but too many men. Listen, I've I've seen my share of women. I'll just put it like that. And there is a gap in women being fulfilled sexually, and that's a problem. And it's not about being dominated, but sex is a big part of a relationship. It's the most intimate thing two people can do. It's not just for creating another child. It's an intimate part of your relationship. So I don't care if it's a virgin or not. Just be prepared for that.
Brother Ted, what black men out here really think that they don't need to have good sex, especially if they want to deal with black women? I don't know who these men you're talking about, but what brother out here thinking that he don't need to have good D to keep his girl around? Most brothers definitely know that if your girl ain't satisfied, it's a high percentage she probably will walk away. Now then, that's not to say that that's a good thing. That's the nature of the, once again, culture we're under, because of how women have been, trained and taught on how they feel they need to move. So yeah, you do need to have, know how to put it down, but I don't know any brothers who are out here thinking that, oh, however I put it down in the bedroom, my female, she better be satisfied. She better not go nowhere. I don't care if my D game weak or not. No, most brothers are, see, this is the thing. The culture, society has taught black men that you need, see, this is the thing. We are taught that we're supposed to be Superman. So these women who are walking away from these men, the average brother is out here knowing he already has the pressure on his back. He needs to make this amount of money. He can't be a sandwich artist at Subway. He needs to be 6 feet tall. He needs to be making six figures. You know what I'm saying? He needs to be at least 10 inches long. You know what? The brothers know. And we've heard about it since the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. Sally, Jesse, Raphael, Ricky Lake, Oprah, and all these other ones. We know what women are complaining about. No brother is under any false aspersions that, his D game don't matter. That's false. No brother's out here thinking that. We know damn well exactly what black men or what black women want. We understand what it is. And the thing is that black women are the ones saying, the most of you brothers don't qualify because she has so many options. We call these male orbiters. Brother, she has in the friend zone that she can pick and choose to say, I will judge this man on this metric of my side dude. And if my main dude isn't good enough, I'm going to go to my side guy or my other side guy. Option A, B, C, or D. We live in the internet age now. These women have social media. Guess what? You can meet a girl in the middle of Kansas and try to be the most traditional man, whatever. But guess what? She can get flown out to Miami, or even better yet, let a rapper come to your small town and she all of a sudden get a hit in her DM. It's over. You know what I'm saying? So brothers know. All right. We understand what black women have complaining about. Brothers are saying the reward that we're bending over backwards for does not meet the put out of what we are supposed to be putting out in our basically our ROI. Our return on investment is not equating. You want us to be Superman just for you can judge me against all your side niggas? And then all of a sudden, I can still lose in the race. So now you got 10 brothers competing for one female who hasn't earned a damn thing. No, brothers are saying no. Brothers are getting their passports. Brothers know their options. Brothers are staying on their purpose. And they say, I will vet and deal with the best women who qualify in the pursuit of my goals and my purpose. While I'm on the way to the top, I'm going to build my empire. And then when I'm in pursuit, I will deal with the best qualifying women who are going to be a part of my empire, not dance for these females and be a concubine. No, brothers are not having that.
I agree with that. I like that. I like that, Chris.
Why would you bend over backwards?
Because that's the metric that they have put out. If you want to deal with black women, if you want to deal with black women, that's what you will do.
No, but that means you're following a black woman's lead. You let her, as a man, you're letting her set the tone for the relationship. And that's what I said earlier about black men being too liberal.
I don't think he's saying let a black woman lead, Ted. I think what he's saying, that's the expectation. But he's saying, I'm not going to do it. That might be that. He just saying that he's just saying that's the canopy. He's saying that's their metric, but it doesn't mean that he's going to do it or anyone else is going to do it.
Okay, but why you can say who cares?
Like, who cares? Why are you letting them set the bar for the relationship?
What do you mean let them? First of all, you can't tell a woman how to think. Right. I can't tell Letitia that if she has a certain metric for a man, I can't tell her she's wrong. Because all she's going to do is say, oh, well, I'm just going to go get another one. That's all she's going to say.
Why are you talking to me? Go somewhere else then.
That's what I'm saying. Me and you are agreeing. I'm not saying that you should.
No. You tell the woman, listen, that men are not putting their foot down and saying, okay, if you have other options, you should go. Don't even bother talking to me. Men are afraid to say that. They're afraid to throw a woman back in the ocean. And if every man did that, then there's no way women could set the tone in the bar.
But Ted, I think he's agreeing with you. Y'all just saying in different ways. He agrees with you. He's saying that's the frisbee that they're throwing. He's saying that the dog don't have to bite the frisbee. You both are correct. I agree with you, Ted, and Chris is actually agreeing with you in a different way. He's just telling you, Chris is like a beat reporter. This is what they're saying, but what Chris is saying, that's what you might say, but I'm not going to do it. That's all he's saying. Go ahead, Brother Allen. How would you like to add to the conversation, man, about Derrick the Snake Jaxn?
Actually, both the gentlemen that were speaking before, right?
That's right.
Both saying the same thing. You just have.
Right, they're both saying the same thing, right?
I'm 40 at this juncture in my life, and I can tell you that it's not about what bending over kowtowing to what that woman wants. So I can respect my elder above me that pretty much you put your foot down, but I also expect the brother to the right of me. Because you have these women out here that they're going to try to influence you to follow their will regardless. But as a man, you still have to stand firm and solid on your conviction. Nah, we ain't doing that. That's not how we going down. That's not how it's going out. Mm-hmm. And you can't be afraid to throw them back. Throw them back. Leave them alone. Most brothers are too afraid of losing the opportunity of having sex with that woman. Not realizing that for every 4 births that occur, 3 are female, 1 are male.
Right.
It's more of them than it is us.
Right.
Let that go. As far as Mr. Jaxn goes, we all knew it was coming. It was just a matter of time. Like that dude he made his money off of the backs of the community and community. We saw it. We knew it was coming. It was just, like I said, a matter of time. Flat out, I'm not surprised. But he's definitely a hypocrite, and certain individuals in the community are going to continue to support him no matter what he does. Right, wrong, they're indifferent. They don't care. He represents their ideal male or man. Tall, dark, strong, and I'm gonna tell you whatever you want to hear. Whatever. And most women, to be honest, like to be lied to. They like that lie. They're willing to put their money behind that lie. That lie has been profitable for Mr. Jaxn. So,
well, you know what, Alan, you're right. I had a young lady tell me one time, what you're saying is 1,000% correct. I saw her at a convention. She was real cool, but she said exactly what you were saying. She said, tell us what we want to hear. We can't handle the truth. She told me that from my own words and started laughing. So it's almost like, if I wanted to be Derrick Jaxn, I'm not as built as him. I could make a lot of money lying to him. I'm 6'5". I got that Leo swag. And I could lie to him, but I just can't do it. It's not in my nature to do that to people, man. It could be tempting, but I just can't see myself. I can't see myself doing that. Ted, talk more about your book in detail. And then Tish, you haven't really talked about your book as well. But I want you to identify, and maybe you have, I don't know, we talked about so much, then we're going to end the stream. But tell me one core talking point that can be antithetical to what Derrick Jaxn is doing. You talked about love in part, but one talking point that could be antithetical. Then Tish, and I see Tish over there yarning, and then we're going to end the stream because we're 3 hours in. But go ahead.
Well, one of the things that I stress is that when a man is getting to know a woman, to not be afraid to have really straight conversations. Instead of just kowtowing and just telling her what she wants and being the kind of man that you think, have some really upfront conversations, including, and I know you guys may say beating sex, but I mean, what's wrong with letting a woman know up front, I'm sexually attracted. I'm not trying to have sex with you right now on a first date, but and find out if she's sexually attracted to you also. Because if she's not, then why are you going to have a first date? You know, be willing to talk about the tough things up front and find out how she manages that. You know, if she doesn't want to talk about anything, then you need to then make a decision. Is this just a good time girl, or I'm really going to be serious about her?
Okay. Tish, talk about your book, sweetie. Go ahead. How your book addresses some of those core points.
My book doesn't. My book, so what I've learned is
what does your book address?
My book is a do's and don'ts guide for a successful first date. So it's getting back to the basics of dating, the first date. Because what I found is that people seem to have lost the art of dating. They don't know the basics of it, the etiquette of it. So basically, it's 35 do's and don'ts. Well, 35 do's, 35 don'ts as to how to engage on the first date, what to expect on the first date, so that you could get a successful second date. That's what I do to help especially my male coaching clients when it comes to dating strategies. It's a formula that I use to help with my male coaching clients, and they've gone on to have successful. They went from getting no second dates or getting ghosted after the first date to being successful and getting that second date, that elusive second date, and going on to being in relationships.
Okay. All right. The hypocrisy of Derrick Jaxn, man, then we're going to take it home, man. Starting with Ted, what is one thing that will more or less suggest Derrick Jaxn being a hypocrite, then Tish, then Mr. Allen, then Chris Strongheart, and then we're going to take it home. And Chris, thank you for coming in, man. I love your insight. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he just told women what they wanted to hear. I mean, basically, he set women up for men like him. Right? Any man who's smart and understands women, that all you have to do is tell them the things that they want to hear, and they will lay down for you. So he misled women, and the problem is women don't realize they were misled. So then they expect men to sort of cater to them in the way he did. And that just creates a problem in the whole dating pool, because now they have expectations based on a lie. I'll stop there.
Letitia, Derrick Jaxn, the modern hypocrite. Why is he a hypocrite?
He's a hypocrite because he didn't tell women, he didn't put a disclaimer out there and say, hey, I'm the F-boy that I'm describing in these videos. I've been cheating on my wife since before we were married. And I never stopped, or I may have stopped, but hey, I realized that I really do like really hot women. And so I'm going to partake from time to time, and I'm going to do me. And it may hurt my wife, but I'm that F-boy. Yeah, I'm that F-boy. That's the hypocrisy, is that he did not tell people. He didn't tell women. Well, he did tell women at once, but he didn't tell women that, yeah, I'm still that guy. And so while he was telling women that he, speaking to women as to their qualms and their disagreements with men, he didn't tell them, hey, I'm still that guy. So that's why he's the hypocrite.
All right, Mr. Allen, why is Derrick Jaxn a hypocrite? And make sure you wax it poetically when you break it down.
He's a hypocrite because he lied. That's number one. Number two, it just goes back to prove what the brother Kevin Samuel said. Women like liars. They don't like righteous, honest men. If you're a righteous, honest man, you could be a Bible thumper, you could be whatever. They don't like that. They want like the illusion and delusion, and they want to include you in their delusion. If you can be a man that sells them delusion, then you can have anything you want. And that's the state of our community. That's the state of our women in our community. The saddest part is for the older sisters in our community, they sell that same delusion to the young sisters. And the process and cycle just continues. So what you're saying is just the natural state of things. And it's going to get worse.
And right. It's going to get worse, and it has gotten worse because the delusion is so strong, Mr. Allen. The evidence is set before them. The evidence is there for them to see it. But instead of them adhering to the evidence and changing the error of their way, they either minimize the impact of that said bad behavior, or will deflect or more or less insert another idiom into that said behavior to justify the position. And that's a problem. Chris Strongheart, man, real quick, what's your take on it?
All right, well, yeah, I agree with the points that the brother Allen was making. You know what I mean? We are, dealing with a result of what the culture that we live under has kind of pushed us into. The culture pushes us to be more like a Derrick Jaxn. The culture tells us that those are the metrics. You need to be that, brother. You need to be more like Derrick Jaxn, which is why so many of them are following him. We have so much evidence upon evidence that is showing what Black women, especially, what they want, how they want to be talked to, what they don't like, what they do like. It's all this. We see it. Yeah. And so what it is that, yeah, they are showing us they want to be lied to. They are showing us that they want a brother to essentially create himself into a F-boy. And, it's funny how even when Derrick Jaxn announced his divorce, he had all these females were in there co-signing him, or basically nobody was consoling his wife. See, none of the females were going at his wife to try to console her. They were all rushing up in his DMs talking about if you need to be happy, you doing the right thing. Now they patting him on the back, consoling him because now he's open, he's fair game. See, that's the thing. There is no sisterhood. This community is broken. The culture that we live under is a farce, and this is a destruction of it. He is a prime example of how destroyed this so-called community is. You're seeing it right now firsthand. They are making him the metric, him the model, and he is the standard, quote unquote. And you see the result of it. These women will step over Derrick Jaxn's wife's carcass just to get to him. There ain't no sisterhood. There ain't none of this loyalty amongst these women. They are all trying to get out here, and look what they'll do to their own sisters. Look what happened with the female, what's the name, who just traveled down to Mexico. Her own homegirl set her up. We dealing right now with this case between Meg Thee Stallion and her friend. They was all messing with the same dudes. They fought over Tory Lanez. It's already been broken down. That whole case is now being broken down because they got in a fight over Tory Lanez. Meg Thee Stallion popped out the car with a gun because they was fighting, and then all of a sudden they was tussling over the gun. And as far as most evidence can see, Meg actually accidentally popped herself. So of course they're gonna try to cover that up. But see, that is the extent to show you how ass backwards this stuff is right now, and to show brothers, you need to be out here making your best option. You shouldn't be trying to appease and placate and bend over for none of these females who attribute these type of features and behaviors. And of course, disclaimer, I am not saying all. It goes without saying. We always say, of course, we're not saying all. And we do understand that there are good sisters who do want to be with upstanding men who are looking for relationships. We understand this, but that is the small minority.
Right, it's minority. I totally agree, young man. I think it's a very small minority, sadly, to say the least. And that small minority is going to keep us in a cycle of suspended animation, which is going to lead to the eradication of the Black community, to say the least. Ted, before we end this show, man, in under 1 minute, where do we go from here, Ted? Where do we go from here?
Well, you'd have to look at men build every civilization on the planet and always have. And if men not only build the civilization, they create the policies that govern that civilization. Black men need to understand that when you talk about culture, that's policy. That's what governs your community. And if Black men do not take charge of what's acceptable and not acceptable, then they will let women create policy and do whatever they want. And I'll stop there.
All right.
So Black men are going to have to take that stand and put their foot down with their spit, because Black men are even teaching their daughters to be empowered and sexually promiscuous. So Black men are going to have to take the stand on this.
No doubt. Go ahead, Letitia. Go ahead, sweetie. Where do we go from here?
Where do we go from here? I agree with something you said in the beginning in your intro. You said we got to burn it all down and then build it back up, right? Mm-hmm. There's not a large percentage of people with a healthy mindset, with the values, the morals that's needed, the healthiness that's needed to be in a relationship. So the answer is not for the women who fit the quality of a wife to then seek elsewhere. The answer is not for the men who fit the qualities of a good husband to seek elsewhere. It's for those two groups of people to find each other and then build the community, or even if they have to separate from the community altogether and start their own new Black community, come together, have your children, have as many children as God would allow you to have, even if that means you having 10, 15 to repopulate the Black community, but rebuild and come up with a new class of Black Americans with just those two people. So I think that's what's going to be a way forward.
All right. Where do we go from here, Mr. Allen?
Nowhere. It's done. It's done. I'm sorry, but it's done. It's done. Everybody get your popcorn, get your nachos. Let's watch this bonfire burn, because it's a raving trash heap at this juncture, and it just gets worse the more time goes on. Right. The brother to my right brought up Megan Thee Stallion. Why is this even a thing at this juncture? We all know she lied, but even still, that made it to court. Our community is so far down in the dumps that it's become a twisted amalgamation of BS and shock culture. So where do we go from here? Nowhere, in my opinion. I know it's a lot of brothers that's getting out of here and just leaving it all. And I'm definitely understanding why. I'm a world traveler. If you have the option to stay in an environment that's hostile or leave, you're gonna leave. Every organism in nature does it. So you, as a person of melanated color and descent, why would you stay somewhere that's hostile to your survival when you can go? I don't see this happening, or becoming better anytime soon. Not in my lifetime or in my kids or nothing. It's just gonna get worse. So let this dumpster fire burn.
Yeah. I think it's prophetic, man. Theology said that things will wax worse and worse, and the lack of mental acuity. We live in a time where the words say they don't love the truth. You can show them the truth. You can give them solid evidence. I promise you, some of these women, Ted, Letitia, and Chris, and Mr. Allen, you're going to have their past on tape having sex with a man or a woman, and they still will find a way to justify the bad behavior of that said pastor because they will rather believe the lie than the truth. That's a delusion. That's a strong delusion. And because they rather love, they will love the lie more than the truth. And that's a sign of a snake whisperer, consistent with the serpent in the garden. But Chris, go ahead, man. Where do we go from here, Chris? And what are the solutions? Go ahead, son.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as far as the solution, brothers are actually, the solution is right now. You have brothers who are looking at dating out in the States and brothers who are traveling to different countries. But see, the thing is that Letitia was right. She did speak to it. She said that we do need to rebuild the Black community. You're correct. It is being done. It's just not being done here. And it's moved. Brothers are moving, going to different places, and some are bringing their women back here to the States. See, the thing is that Black women now are being put on notice to understand that your Black community is about to be a lot more multicolored, if you will. There's about to be a lot more women from different countries living next to you. That's the future of your community. It's about to be men who have brown children living with foreign women or women from different places. That is the future of the community. Some will call that assimilating to some degree. But the thing is, it's not, our numbers are not in jeopardy, because some people want to believe that, oh, now that you made it with these women, those children are not Black. Yeah, they are. They're definitely considered Black by all metrics. So the thing is that we have to get over this mindset of what black is. See, that's the thing. We have a bad perception of what black is. The black community is rebuilding itself. It's a dispersal. And you have brothers who are pushing out, they're going their separate ways, and they're saying, we're going to rebuild the black community over here, over here, over here, and over here. And if we're all connected to America, America will be our home base. And we'll all be able to reconnect back in the States and have a foothold in America and rebuild and deal with it that way. Because the only other second option would be, and Brother Ted spoke to this, he said we'd have to get into policy. Brother Ted, I'll let you know, the main policy that would have to change are laws that surround marriage and family laws. Those would be the biggest things. But white men are fighting that same battle, though. See, that's the thing. White men are fighting that battle right now, tooth and nail, to try to reverse some of the child support issues, the things about marriage, about you got to pay so much, alimony and thing. Men's rights activists have been fighting that battle for so long. How long do we have to fight and die on our shields and give away our youth and our prime years to something that has been a far gone fantasy? Brothers have been fighting that war for years. Now, I'm not saying don't get active in the government, of course, but I'm trying to say that in order to see this magical turnaround where the community is just going to all kumbaya, be holding hands and walking through the fields, smelling flowers anytime soon, it ain't happening. It ain't happening no time soon.
No,
sorry if that killed a lot of people's hope, but damn
right.
it, that's reality.
It ain't gonna happen, right? Because it takes generations to build communities. When I went to college, we talked about systems, and systems take time. The black system of virtue and power was not built in a vacuum, and neither was it built in a small fraction of time. It took generations for us to get to that point where we were respectful, where our women were responsive. But it's going to take generations to get this mess back together. And I will be a fool to tell young men to continue to mire in this foolishness, because when you have Letitia trying to teach her daughter how to be an icon of virtue, and you got more women trying to shame her for doing the right thing, which is the right thing in the standard, then that lets you know that we're in what's called a Roman roads culture in the generation. And I think the only thing that can change the trajectory is something of major cataclysmic proportion. The Muslims call it the Mahdi. The Christians call it the Messiah, Yeshua. And so that remains to be seen. But I don't see it getting no better no time soon. Like Harold Melvin, the Blue Note, said, world don't get no better. And he said, if you can't change the world, just let it be. And on that note, we're going to sign off. Ted, thank you for coming in, man. I love you, brother. Letitia, thank you for coming in. I got to have you again. I'm going to have Ted back again. Ted, the brothers love you. The young crab, much love to you. And then also Mr. Allen. I was hoping some of you brothers would have came on and asked Letitia some questions, but it's all good. I love you brothers nonetheless. But guys, thank y'all for tuning in. But before you guys sign out, I need you guys to do me a favor. That robot keeps sending me texts, and he said these dusty Negroes will not hit that like button. So the robot said, guys, go hit the like button because he got bills to pay. Go hit the like button. All right, guys, go get that book. I told you guys about Edward Fields and his book. You guys have been emasculated, and I'm promoting this book for this brother because I believe in it. And go check out Ted Santos' book and Letitia's. If you're in the matchmaking business, go check out Edward Fields' book, Emasculated. Once again, we're signing off.
Have you been distressed or perplexed? Emasculated. A book written by Edward Fields IV. Everything that needs to be known about men in modern time. Listen, men are not complex. They are misunderstood and unappreciated. Learn what men really feel, think, and desire. Also observe their struggle for acceptance, love, and belonging. A must read for every man in this classic book by Edward Fields IV. Emasculated. Go get your copy now.
It's a hard thing to admit, but it's understandable why they would choose to go their own way. And that's what's scary, is there's actually a rational reason why they would do that.
Men going their own way. And you can think what you want about it, but this is a really big problem for women, for us, for our future, for families, for you to find a partner. If a population of good men are walking away because they're fed up with women.
If you're being told all your life that you are bad and wrong just for being a man, and that you have toxic masculinity for being a man, and that, you know, women, there's this famous expression that, you know, a woman needs a man just like a fish needs a bicycle. And that men are basically useless. And that men are terrible, and that, you know, women are superior.
Our society is very callous towards men. The only message most men hear in the world is that they're a bumbling buffoon. The TV shows are full of idiot men. Commercials show men as buffoons. The society is against them. All they hear about is what idiots men are.
It's the mass of women that are taking over the culture and representing women. They're loud. They're mean. They say they want equality. Why are they not protesting in the streets for the changing the laws for alimony or child support or child custody? Because they don't want equality. They want superiority.
The male gender has more of a slave state, and it's because men are now subjugated to the law and to women, and nobody really believes it except the men who go through, say, the court. But most men think that they're exempt from that until they end up in a bad situation.
So for a lot of the men, and a lot of them have gotten screwed over in terrible relationships and divorces and gotten their kids taken away from them. So it's an understandable response.
In the United States of America, as a man, you can't speak up. I think most women tend to be very, I'm stereotyping, but they tend to be more collectivist. They tend to sort of be more in that socialist mindset. So I don't know that you're going to see a huge change. I think the change will have to come from men.
The lives of women will not change until the men get the opportunity to also examine and define and change their lives. In many ways, I sometimes think that the 20th century was the century where the women made all these massive changes, and the 21st century will be the changes that the men will make, partly in adapting to the changes that the women have done.
And those men are doing something about it. They're saying, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm not getting married, or I'm divorced. They don't sit around just trying to live their life through women. They actually have lots of hobbies. They go out, they buy that land you were talking about. They're out there getting motorcycles. They're having a good time, and they're enjoying life without having to deal with the stress of the women and the society that tells them they have to have a woman in their life.
How would you feel? I mean, you know, you're not going to feel that attracted to a woman or care to be loving towards her or romantic towards her. So this men going their own way is a reaction to that. I really think it's a rational reaction to that. Men are finally like, hey, we've given you all you want. You know, you are equal in every way, and then you're still shaming us.
We're about to sign off. It's been a great show, guys. And tune in on tomorrow as I bring it to you live from the greatest state in the Union, the Tar Heel State. It's 38 minutes after the hour of 1 o'clock as we talked about and asked ourselves the question, is Derrick Jaxn a fraud, and is love not enough? Signing off, guys, and thank you for tuning in. Be well.